not American, and the world will not end.
Right here. It's okay.
We believe in justice and justice for country.
Hello, my name is Samantha. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samantha. We appreciate your bold courage here tonight. Thank you. Pastor Thompson, we appreciate you. Thank you, sir. Mr. City Attorney, is there anything to report from the closed session?
Yes, there.
Mayor and council members, we only have one reportable action on the item on your agenda, which is number 1. It's a workers' comp case. The council approved a settlement of $1.6 million, but that settlement is being paid for by the city's insurer. That's all the reportable action that I have.
Very good. Thank you. For presentations, moving to our item for presentations, I invite the representative from the Chamber of Commerce. Is the Chamber of Commerce representative here to make their announcements? Chamber of Commerce? Okay, moving on to Councilmember Mulvihill. Councilmember Mulvihill will recognize a very deserving resident as Citizen of the Month.
I'm really sorry. Representative from 5th District Supervisor Gonzalez's office is here also to make announcements for local.
Appreciate that. We'll do that after presentations, but thank you. Councilmember Mulvihill.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm delighted to be able to recognize a very devoted citizen that spends a great deal of time trying to raise the quality of life and increase the safety in our neighborhood. If Ms. Joanne Bates, you'd step up to the lectern. The Bates family has lived in San Bernardino for, right now, it's 50 years. April 1969, so you celebrate your 50th anniversary last month. She bought a house in the Arrowhead Neighborhood Association area in 1971 and remains there. She raised 2 children, a son who went to Cal State and now is in law enforcement. What form of law enforcement?
No, he's in law enforcement.
What? With the state police. Thank you. And a daughter who went to UCLA and is now working in Washington, D.C. She's been very much active in raising the awareness and a range of issues, and I know personally she informed me of actually a man was holding a chop shop operation in his backyard, and it took quite a while for us to get onto it, and it's hard to believe, but yeah, this fellow was working really a full-time job at night. Also, there was a halfway house in the neighborhood that was not following code, and we were able to get that remedied. And also the traffic calming along Arrowhead to slow down traffic and to have a safe bicycle lane for citizens. And so let me provide you with a certificate recognizing the accomplishments that you have done, and also a much sought after lapel pen.
I have one of those. Thank you.
You have one already?
No, now I have it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You would like to say a few words?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Oh, I guess that.
Thank you, Councilmember. We appreciate Ms. Bates. Congratulations to you. At this time, we'd like to recognize Jamie Rios in the 2019-2020 Mr. Cardinal and Court. And if you would please, Mr. Rios, join me here. We have some certificates recognizing your lineup, and if I'd like to introduce Mr. Rios, if you'd have a few words.
Good evening, City Council and the community of San Bernardino. This is my 16th year as the founder and director of Mr. Cardinal, and we are so well known, not only in San Bernardino, in the surrounding cities of San Bernardino, and they just love everything that we do. These guys are out there getting their hands dirty, picking up trash, serving the unfortunate, and just giving really back to the city they love. San Bernardino will be great once again. Thank you for all your support.
Very good. At this time, I'd like to recognize the following individuals. Daniel Macias, Mr. Cardinal Ambassador of 2019-2020. Congratulations, Mr. Macias. Mr. Javier Palacios, Mr. Cardinal 2019-2020. There you are, sir. And Ulysses Villalobos, Mr. Cardinal, first runner-up, 2019-2020. Congratulations, sir. And our second runner-up is Mr. Tovar, Javier Tovar. And second runner-up for Mr. Cardinal 2019-2020. Congratulations. Take a quick picture. Quick picture. There you go. Very good. Few words.
Hello. I would like to thank the mayor and the city council for recognizing us today. Thank you so much for supporting the Mr. Cardinal program. We hope to come back and continue to do work in making a change in our community. Thank you very much.
Very good. We thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for making and inspiring our community on to greatness, and we wish you much success in your ensuing years there at San Bernardino High School. Thank you, Mr. Rios, for all what you do. Now I'd like to invite our acting police chief, McBride, to the podium and to present him with a proclamation in honor of the National Police Week to celebrate and thank our dedicated officers to our police department. This is a proclamation from the mayor and city council, whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week, and whereas the members of our San Bernardino Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights, the freedoms of the people of the city of San Bernardino, and might I add, our business corridors. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agencies, and that members of our law enforcement agencies recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. So now, therefore, the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino do hereby proclaim May 12th to May 18th, 2019 as National Police Week for the City of San Bernardino. Congratulations.
As we all know, as you just mentioned, this week is National Police Week, and today is Police Memorial Day. And we have to, in mindful of that, keep recognition of the officers across the country, both across country and here, that have lost their lives in the line of duty. Last year, 163 officers across the country died in the line of duty, and this year, so far, 42 officers have lost their lives. But more importantly, our city has sacrificed officers in the line of duty as well. And during the little over 100 years that we've been a police department, we've lost 9 officers in the line of duty. And I'd just like to mention their names because at least once a year we should mention their names and remember their sacrifices to the city and the community. And those 9 officers are Officer Henry Moore, who died on January 1st, 1937. Officer Edwin Blakely, January 3rd, 1942. Officer Frank Rogers, September 27th, 1947. Officer Harris McCulloch, September 27th, 1947. Sergeant Timothy Littlefield, February 10th, 1990. Officer Gerald Silvestri, October 14th, 2000. Officer Dan Clark, November 3rd, 2011. and Officer Bryce Haynes, November 5th, 2015. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Finally, at this time, I do ask and call forward our elected officials representative, Ms. Maldonado. If you would, please join us and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council, and good evening, residents. My name is Kiana Maldonado, and I am a field representative for County Supervisor Josie Gonzalez here in San Bernardino County. For some residents that might not know, the city is actually divided up between 3rd District as well as 5th District with Supervisor Gonzalez. We cover most of the city. I'm here tonight because I wanted to introduce myself to the council members that I have not yet met yet, and of course to the community as well, because I just want to offer my services as your liaison to the county. I want to be able to have that direct contact, and the county is very complicated, and we know that, so it's nice to have someone you can call that can help direct you to the correct department or assist you with things like, for instance, do you qualify for Medi-Cal, CalFresh? Are you a senior in need of financial or nutritional assistance or in-home support services? Are you someone that is homeless or needing of some housing? So those are just kind of a few things that we cover. A funner topic is we do have these new digital media cards that we just came up with. Our communication specialist is excellent. It sounds fancier than it is. If anyone's familiar with QR codes, basically it's a QR code app that you download on your phone. You scan our little card. I left some over there if anyone's interested. And it takes you to all of our social media platforms. It's pretty cool. You can keep up to date with what's happening in the county and just get connected with us. So that's basically all I have to update about. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to come up to me and I can provide you my contact information. I did have some certificates for some of the presenters. I do know they just left. But I did, maybe I can
If you would
provide
just
someone.
hand it to our city
Perfect.
clerk and we will distribute. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very much, Ms. Maldonado. At this time, we are moving on to our public comment section. We will open up both speaker dais, so please, when you hear your name, if you would, help us. We have several public comments, and so I will read out the names. There's yellow slips there, and if you would, please avail yourself of the opportunity if you'd like to address the city council. In about 5 minutes or so, we'll cut off the council slips, and just to create some order here, and remember that we have 2 council dais, so please. Our first speaker is Michael Williams on behalf, Michael Williams, followed by Mary, followed by Esmeralda Negrete. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, good evening, good evening. I'm here on behalf of a good friend of mine, Joseph Chastain. Also, on behalf of several other victims, pedestrians that have been struck recently. And as of last year, it was something like 19, which is half of our traffic fatalities were pedestrians in San Bernardino. Joseph was a month shy of his 40th birthday. He got off the bus. He was a bus rider. And he was crossing the street on Kendall. And it's 5 lanes, so it takes some time to get across there. Speed limit is 50 miles per hour. It's not well lit. There was a crosswalk, but there was no indication that there was a person in the crosswalk. Mostly I would like to ask that maybe the city go forward and try to make it safer for pedestrians in San Bernardino. I mean, especially at nighttime. I know a lot of the fatalities have happened even during the daytime. The same day that Joey was struck, there was 2 other individuals that were also struck and killed in the city. Last July, my son was walking across Highland Avenue going to school, and he was struck. He's okay. Joey's not. You know, when you speak to someone every day, multiple times during the day, you know, that's just something that can't be replaced. And Joey was an advocate for San Bernardino. Okay, he was a part of a lot of local clubs. Student at San Bernardino Valley College, and just very, very passionate about politics here in this city. And he loves San Bernardino. And just on his behalf, I want to come before you guys and you know, present that information. I'd like to see something maybe be done, you know, to make it safer. And so that's That's my time I'd like to take. I don't want to take too
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mary, followed by Esmeralda Negrete, followed by Hardy Brown. Welcome, Mary.
My name is Mary Valdemar. I am an employee at San Bernardino Valley College. I work in the library. I've been a resident, an organizer in this community for over 20 years, and I'm also involved with an organization called Chica. I don't usually speak here, and although I follow very closely the actions and the decisions of the leadership here, I don't normally come here to speak because there are so many issues that I just feel like it's sometimes overwhelming. But I came today because I knew Joey. And I do speak at a lot of other council meetings and in a lot of other bodies, and it's not unusual to see one or two controversies. But just talking to the people in this room today, y'all have a mess here. Like, there is a mess here that needs to be cleaned up. And there's some priority issues that need to be dealt with. As I look at the agenda and I see the accolades to the police and the budget and the issues, the idea of closing libraries, the idea of what's happening at the airport, all these ideas were things that our friend Joey, like, he studied and looked at, and he advocated for community. And this community member who put countless hours into this community for free, without pay, did not have people advocating for him where he lived in his neighborhood. The corridor from University and Kendall to the next major light on that street. We went there. It's dark. We tried to put a memorial near the place where he was at. It was so dark, we had to drive back and forth 5 times to find the correct intersection. There's no lighting, there's no stop signs, there's nothing. And in that one weekend alone, there was like maybe 5 to 7 people who had been killed along that corridor, trying to cross the street or somewhere because of traffic problems in that area. And nothing has been done. When we talked to his neighbors, his family, and his friends, we found out that this is something that's been well known for a very long time, that people have complained and people have come forward, but their names were not recognized like the names we just recognized of the officers. You don't know their names because most of these folks were youth. They were vulnerable. They were poor. They took the bus. They were people who don't really have the opportunity or time to come here and speak to you. So we're here speaking on their behalf. I feel bad that I didn't know more about this issue when Joey was still alive. You know, I don't live in the North End. I live in the downtown area. You know, I work in the downtown area, you know, in the heart of our city. And I see a lot of struggle there too. And I see a lot of issues there too. But this issue needs to be addressed. So my ask is very specific. I'm going to ask that you do a study about the number of accidents that are happening between Kendall and University and the next major light. I'm going to ask that you report that back to this body and give us the actual data of how many people have lost their lives.
Thank you, Ms.
What are their
Valdemar.
ages? What are their ethnicities? Like all that information.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Esmeralda Negrete, followed by Hardy Brown, followed by Carmel Rowe. Remember, folks, we do have two speakers, so if we could get Hardy, Mr. Brown, or wherever we need to accommodate you, so maybe this podium, I'm sorry, Mr. Brown, and then Carmel Rowe. Ms. Negrete, you're on. Welcome.
Good evening. I would like to know if the council could look into Section 308 of the Charter, which states Judge of Qualifications. The council shall be the judge of the election and qualifications of its member, whether grounds exist for forfeiture of their office. I ask this because everyone knows throughout the city that John Valdivia won many votes because he promised to keep the shelter here. It's on video, it's out there, so I would like to know if this is something that you as a council, as a body, can have him forfeiture that seat. My next issue here, I saw that there is a proposal for an increase of a minimum of 3.5 for the salary for the chief of police and the assistant chief of police. If you take a look at that increase, a 3.5 out of a $300,000 salary, it's equal to 1.5 officers of the P1 officers. That is a very large sum right now that our city is taking a hit. Lastly, there is a contract that is coming up for today, and that contract won by merely a difference of about $32,000. But there are some discrepancies that I caught. I would be very surprised if, Councilmember Henry Nickel and a few of you who like to look at numbers and, do your math, wouldn't have caught that, because on page 254, the total provided here, it's $4,383,962. However, if you look at the total bid for number 7, there is a big discrepancy there. That discrepancy, when you look at the other numbers, should have been $1,480,935. However, they used the $1,408,935 for their total. Now, when you take a look at that, that means that that contract shouldn't be going to that All-American that it's being bid. It should have gone through the other contract. So there is that discrepancy there. And on page 247, you could see that the total should have been what is on the side, not as what is actually being quoted on the writing. So therefore, I would highly recommend that you don't pass this contract, because literally it costs someone a contract for $32,000. It's a difference of $34,421.50. When someone else was given that, if you take a look at your numbers too, the construction contingency is $446. How the heck this company came up with that number? Either they play with their numbers up and down so they can get the lowest bid. Something's going on. I hope that you question it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Hardy Brown, followed by Carmel Rowe, followed by Treasurer Tees. Welcome, Mr. Brown.
No, you can't do that. No. He wants me to. Thank you. Thank you so much for accommodating him. ADA-wise, that's what we're supposed to do. I want to first of all say that Hardy was a police commissioner in this city. We've lived here since I've lived here since 1958. He's lived here since 1960-something. But he's really concerned about something when he looked at it on TV last week, and he says, at your last city council meeting, you introduced 5 white police officers, 3 males and 2 females, in the position of lieutenant to take over the entire city in a new community policing program. As explained in a report back in February, it's not a new concept. While I agree, neither is your continuing to hire all white police officers to oversee black citizens in our city. I have read articles of Mayor Tom Miner offering the chief position on the condition of the chief living in the city and hiring more minorities. Another article where former Chief Dan Robbins explains that they have to be sensitive to the many cultural differences in our community. And yet another article where the NAACP spoke about discrimination in the recruitment, selection, and hiring. It appears as though you have not learned anything from past mistakes. The acting police chief, Eric McBride, proudly highlighted, and rightly so, the home city roots of Lieutenant Mahan in graduating from Cajon High School, and that her mother served as a forensic specialist, and now her son has recently joined the police department as a patrolman. All that's good, and it demonstrates what can be done for black citizens if they were given the same opportunity. The executive and command staff are comprised of a chief, assistant chief, 4 captains, 8 lieutenants, with only 2 females, 1 black and 1 Latino. It has been 114 years, 38 police chiefs, and only 1 reaching the rank of captain. That was Ted Henson. 2 blacks left San Bernardino to become chiefs in other cities. Blacks make up 14.1% in the city population, but only 10% of the workforce, and 6% in the police department, while whites make up 15.3% of the population, but 43% of the workforce and 57% in the police department. I have a problem with the fact that none of you said anything against the lack of diversity during the meeting the last meeting. This means to me you have no intention or written policy that should address diversity in this city. I see a lot wrong with this picture if you do not. We do plan to do something about it, even if it requires filing complaints and lawsuits. We cannot wait another 114 years for things to happen by chance. The truth is controversial. Malice may attack it, ignorance may deride it, but in the end, it's there.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Treasurer Ortiz, followed by, Treasurer, you can get right here, right in front of you. There you go.
I think I was next.
Oh, my bad. Carmel Rowe, Treasurer Ortiz. Who wants to go first? Very good. Ms. Rowe, welcome.
Welcome. So I have a few complaints today. First one is the fact that you cut off public comment last week, and I had to leave early because I had to take my kid home because it was almost 11 o'clock, and I kind of feel like my freedom of speech was taken from me, and I don't really appreciate that. The second thing I had to say is that all this dog shelter and all this animal shelter, and to save $450,000 when if you did a private public partnership, you could probably save $2.1 million. You know, there's people willing to donate their land. There's people willing to donate their time. I mean, I think you could probably spend a couple $100,000 and deal with this situation and save the city more money than by outsourcing it. So I want to know what backdoor deals are going on. Like, we need the love. We need the sales tax dollars. Like, I've been here. I've been telling you guys. I've been telling you the dogs, the marijuana. I mean, come on. We can't just keep ignoring it. I mean, you guys are looking like I'm not ever saying anything. Like, we all know. You guys, the jig is up, man. We're here. Nobody's going to go away. And eventually, you know, the light is going to shine. So why don't you guys just take the $2.1 million, do what's right for the city, you know, and keep it here. I mean, it's going to end up costing you more money. I've done the numbers. And then my next thing is for you guys to have the budget and then the CDBG annual action plan in the same agenda. I mean, that's an awful lot of numbers to go through in just a few days. You know, if any of you guys are like me, you work, you got kids, you got other things to do, I don't even think you guys could really go through it all properly. So I think that when you make up the agendas, you should maybe not put all the numbers in one thing so you don't confuse them, because those CBDG funds could save the library, could do a lot of things if they were only used properly. I mean, think about it. We've been getting them for 99 years. If we used them properly for 99 years, our city might look a little bit better. So that, and then I just wanted to say about Joey, this is over by where I live on Kendall, and, you know, I've flown down that street many a nights, and it is pitch black. It is pitch black. Anybody could be killed. I mean, the sheriff was just killed up there when he got into a car accident and got punched and died. Like, that was last year. So maybe some of the money that we're mismanaging, or maybe some of the money we could save by keeping the animal shelter here, maybe we could use that to take care of the lighting and the crosswalks and the city, because people are fed up. People are really fed up. And, like, we're giving the police raises when they don't really show up. Okay? I mean, that's a problem. That's a very big problem. So, you know, I'll be back today to speak on the CDBG, but, and HDL. Last week when you passed that contract, that was a no-no. They were in the audience. They didn't help out, and now the city is being sued left and right. There's an article on Facebook today about HDL and about pay to play, and this city is all about pay to play. So it just makes you guys look real bad over and over
Thank you,
and
Ms.
over
Rowe.
again.
Your time is up. Our next speaker is Treasurer Ortiz, followed by Damaris Casillas, followed by Ricardo. Sir Ortiz, welcome.
Mayor and Council, so last week the County of Riverside declined the contract to our animal shelter, and yet it did not receive any attention on our agenda, and I don't understand that. How are we not moving something back to the council that's been rejected so that we can finally put a proactive approach to saving our shelter? We speak about it time and time again, and yet we complain we're never moving forward. Nothing is ever getting done. At cost, at $2.1 million, we were going to hand our shelter to another county, and we can't do anything to save it. What are we doing here? What is this city doing? Other than handing the police department hundreds of thousands of dollars without any benefit on measures that are going to sunset, we are not doing anything proactive for our residents. We have people who have asked for streets to be paved. They have not been paved. Who are asking for more homeless initiatives to stop people from breaking into their houses, for streetlights to be put up, for kids to have safe ways to school, for more jobs in the city, for stronger enterprise. And yet, nothing. You know what we've done? We've hired people when we're preparing to lay off non-sworn employees next year. This makes no sense. We see what we've done and the We Are the Change has done in the downtown in bringing life back. And you know why? Because the community said, this is what we want. They moved forward and they did it. And now it's successful and the city is working towards a full permitting plan for a downtown market night. Why are we not doing the same proactive approach with the shelter? Give the RFP process a chance. You're going to create 5 committees. So people can come and be paraded up here, shake a hand, get a certificate and a little pin, and yet you bypass the animal shelter committee or the animal commission. So are they really what they're there for? Are we really doing this for a purpose, or is it only when it suits the agenda of certain people? Because the residents are tired, we're fed up, and we're still here, so this isn't going to go away. And we will continue, and they will move forward in every commission and county meeting that it takes for you guys to listen to us. Why is the county supervisors more willing to listen to our plea for an RFP process than our own elected officials? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Damidas Casillas, followed by Ricardo, followed by Paul Sanborn. Damidas Casillas. Ricardo, you're next, followed by Paul Sanborn. Mr. Sanborn, you're on deck. Go ahead, ma'am. Welcome.
Okay, I'm here because I have a concern about a park in my area. It's like, it looks abandoned because it has no lights, because in the dark it looks so dark. And it has holes everywhere, like gopher holes, and people could trip over. And there's like glass bottles everywhere because a lot of people that drink around the area, they just break the glass there. And the playgrounds, they have graffiti all over it, and no one goes there because of how sad it looks.
Ms. Casillas, what park are you referring to?
To Ruben Campos?
Okay, on 5th Street?
Yes.
All right. If our city manager could take notes on that.
Okay. And another concern I have is, why are we closing down the libraries? Everyone uses them to educate themselves. And it's like, you're taking away education from kids, everyone who goes there. And people use the computers there to because some people don't have money to buy themselves computers at home. And that's the only place you could get free books to educate yourself about things, because what if you don't know anything? So you just go there to learn about something you have you have no education about. And are my concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Casillas. Thank you. Our next speaker is Ricardo. Welcome, sir.
Casillas. The reason I'm here is because it's the issue that I've been facing for the last 2 years with the police department. It seems that we have a lack of leadership so far, and it's like BS all the time from them. And then they keep telling me, collect evidence, collect evidence. This is how much I collected so far. And they still keep asking me to keep collecting evidence. And actually, I talked to somebody in the city hall on Friday, in the mayor's office, someone by the name Ron. He's supposed to return me a call because I guess he was talking about meeting with somebody from the law enforcement and stuff to see what else can be done, because it seems it's a hustle with the police. Sometimes you feel threatened every time you call them. And I guess if there's a way you guys could have a program for domestic violence preventions and stuff, because it seems that I'm being a victim of that, and it seems that there's nothing, no programs at all, there's nothing. And when you call the police, sometimes they refuse to take a report. Some of them even tell you that you need to do over online. So what is the purpose of having the police officers then? They're not bothered to do their job. So the last one of the time I even told them, what do you guys want me to do? Do a citizen's arrest now? And they got mad at me. They told me, if you keep it up, we're going to arrest you. So what is the point? Buy myself a cop car and just be acting like a police officer now? This is unacceptable. I've been living here for 20-something years. And this is not the way the law enforcement is supposed to be treating citizens. I follow all the directions, everything they told me, everything by the book. This is what I have. I keep bringing it everywhere I go. to see somebody can look at all the evidence I have in my hands. And then when I go to the police station, sometimes I have to drive to the police station because even they hang up the phone on you. That's unacceptable. What kind of service do they have? I already talked to a sergeant, watch commanders. It seems that they don't even care. There was one time that I showed up there, and they were like this, kicking it, and like that's an embarrassment. To have officers just sitting in the office, just like do nothing, and they act like they're doing something, like when you call them over the phone. You know, and they got a bunch of, I believe they're cadets or the people that were going to become citizens, police. And it seems they're even worse because they're not properly trained. The officers, what's the point of having them with cameras, the real police officers? If they can only record whatever they feel like and wherever they think is going to save them from somebody suing them. You know, I don't understand. I've been trying to meet with somebody that's a high management so far, and seems that nobody seems to care. I even contacted the mayor's office. Like I told you, I don't know who's the mayor around here because I don't know.
Thank you,
who they
Mr.
are.
Casillas. Your time is up. Thank you, sir. Mr. Sanborn, you're on deck here. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Tonight, Fred Charette, my wife's been on me all week to apologize to you. So I do. I'm sorry I called you 8-ball.
How about apologizing for calling me a racist?
Yeah, that too. I apologize for that. You know, see, the whole thing behind it, to be honest with you, is a city divided against itself can't stand. And you and Muldahill, you need to get on board with the rest of them. We've got things to do to get this city back. It's that simple. Porter here, last time at the council meeting, every word out of his mouth was dude to the mayor. I mean, this is the honorable mayor. He's not dude. It's that simple, and he needs to apologize. To Brian Whitehead, if he's watching tonight, I don't know if he's here or not, you know, as far as Juan Figueroa, it was a landslide. Evidently, he doesn't know that word. The other thing that I would like to address, basically, is the west side. Anybody that lives on that side of Mount Vernon, if you had a heart attack or a stroke or something, God help you, you bet, you know, that you could make it. You got one station at Meridian and Mill. You got one up here at Palm and Kendall. The other one that's in your area is at 9th and Mount Vernon. They tore the one down on Medical Center Drive, and you've lost a couple of the others. Which is 2s on 9th Street, if they're out on a call, you're not going to make it, I don't think. You need to call Josie Gonzalez and tell him we need a couple fire stations over on the west side. Today, not tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Robert Porter, followed by Andrea Nices, followed by Ellis Chow. Mr. Porter, welcome.
Mayor, council, good people. I did address the mayor last time, but I also addressed my peers as dude because he is my peer, and that's how I show respect to people. So I'm not going to apologize for saying dude. That's just what I've said in San Bernardino for over 43 years, and I'm going to keep saying it till the day I die. But away from that subject, I didn't expect to get attacked up here, Valdivia. I mean, come on, dude. He's supposed to be on our team here. Regardless, my good friend Neona Rose, an admin on I Love San Bernardino, and another good friend of mine, Brenda Hagerman. They passed away just recently, and they were good people in our city. And Neona, she went out of her way to bring the community together with a project called Urban Gardens. And people brought their fruit for free and traded it. And made sure that we shared what we had in our backyards. And she bought us shirts. And she made a Facebook group that was quite successful. And she'd come on my radio show. And whenever I would be missing an event, she'd get a hold of me and make sure that I made it there. and she cared about me. And a lot of people in the city care about me. But they always tell me that you all don't care about me. And I defend you, because I do know you guys personally. Not that dude as much over there, but that's his fault, because he's taken that stance. Mr. Charette, on a personal level, when you see him over there at the train station or the museum or whatever, he's a good guy, you know, on that level. But I don't agree with all of his politics. But what I'm trying to show you is, even though I've been against you all, and you've been against me sometimes, that doesn't mean we can't work together on some of these things. We can get this done, man. I don't want to hear about recalls. I don't want to hear about leave. I don't want to hear about that stuff. I just want to hear about our history and the good things we got. And if we work together, Mr. Valdivia, Mr. Nickel, Mr. Mulvihill, Mr. Charette, Ms. Ibarra, Mr. Sanchez, and then now Mr. Figueroa. If we work together, we can make this city better. But it feels like we're struggling with our own stuff from the last team. Let's focus on today. We can get it done. And it is possible to have a volunteer shelter with one city person running it. And it is okay to have a market night in our old area that's sort of like Redlands. And it is going to be all right to teach San Bernardino's history. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andrea Nices, followed by Alice Chow, followed by Chris Egger. Ms. Nices, welcome.
Hi, my name's Andrea Nices, and I just want to speak on behalf of the animal shelter. I just don't understand why we're all working against each other, why we can't work together. I mean, all of us are in the same, we all want to help the animals. If we can help the city, and you, Mr. Mayor, I know you're listening to me, I just feel that, you know, why aren't we helping each other? I want to play something, and this goes over in my head, and I play this 5-6 times a day because I still cannot believe that you got us. You talked to me personally, and you told me that you were going to help us. We all voted for you. We all supported you. You were gung-ho, and I want you to listen to this.
Sure that it's our own. I'm not really in favor of sending it elsewhere. I think we can improve. I think the answers are within our organization. When I become the mayor, we're going to make sure that we keep that animal shelter and that we restore it to a sense of pride in our community.
That's you. That's you promising us. You promised us. And you know what? I don't know how you can live with yourself, because you should be ashamed. And I pray to God that you come to your senses soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nices. Ms. Chow, welcome. Chris Egger, followed by Chad White.
Good evening, Alice Chow, San Bernardino Animal Care Organization, talking about the shelter. I want to clarify that we were not given 1 year. The motion to open an RFP process was done on February 2019. Then on March, the majority of the council members voted to outsource with Riverside, so we weren't given a chance legally. In order for us to give a proposal, there has to be an RFP process, so we were not given anything. We never asked the city for any money to build the shelter. We verbally stated in several speeches throughout the over 1 year that we've been here that we would fundraise and apply for grants to build a new shelter for the city. But unfortunately, we were never able to present that in a proposal because we never had the opportunity to have a request for proposals to submit one. Council members Charette and Mulvihill, since you verbally stated that you had a change of heart to vote differently, please take the opportunity to call for a special meeting this week so that the council members can talk about opening it up again for an RFP so that we can help the city build a new shelter without putting us in debt. And the residents, the rescues, the volunteers, and businesses can work together to make this happen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Egger, followed by Chad White, followed by Celine Perez.
Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the City Council, of course to the city staff and to the public safety leadership here tonight, thank you for the opportunity to address you. I would like to say on a special note, the Police Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and today being a day to recognize public service in that capacity, thank you all for your service. And with that being said, I'm here tonight. Like many of you, I've been through 2 election cycles here in the city of San Bernardino. The first one, maybe we were seeking common ground. The second time, we were working from common ground. I'm a member of the cannabis community. I'm a professional. I've also been an activist entrepreneur, and now finally a vested shareholder and owner in one of the license applicants that was granted, the initial approvals. We here as an industry tonight, and I'm not speaking on behalf of my peers, but I am speaking as someone who's led, kind of the dialogue here in the city from the perspective of the cannabis industry with the city, is that, we're here to invest money into the community, but more importantly, as I hear all the issues that you face, and as elected leaders, I know for a fact that you put yourself out there because you love this city and because you want to see it move forward in the better direction that it's capable of moving towards. And I know that we're going to be able to play a small role in the kindling fire, so to speak, for the bonfire of a renaissance in this community. But we're ready. And I know for a fact that there's a lot of people who want to aggressively try to push an agenda. We've really been transparent. We've been at this for years with you guys. And I'm speaking here tonight, whatever we can do to support that cohesive vision that's being described here tonight, whatever we can do to bring value to this community, we're here and we're prepared to do it. But we also are hoping that you guys will take some of that leadership that we all collaboratively worked on in the last election cycle, start, giving us our licenses to move forward, and hopefully that'll be across the board. I'm not just seeking my own tonight, but I am back to that activist position, and I do believe in this community. I do believe being San Bernardino strong means moving this agenda forward and seeing where we're all at in 5 to 10 years from now in a better community. And so I want to thank you all for your service, and I want to say thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chad White, followed by Celine, followed by Lizette and Andrea. Chad White, welcome, sir.
How you doing, Mr. Mayor? I just want to follow up with kind of what Chris just implemented for you guys. We are one of the 16 licenses given away in February 21st. We have submitted plan check as of March. It has been over 9 weeks since we have been sitting waiting for plan check. I definitely understand that you guys had to rehire HDL. To be able to go over these plans, to understand cannabis regulations, which we're fine with. But it's been 2 weeks since you guys rehired or voted on to hire HDL. From my understanding with staff is that contract is still not signed. Our plan check is still sitting. It hasn't gone forward. We're ready to invest over $1 million into our facility to build out this facility. We're ready to go. You have 16 other applicants that are ready to go, not even getting on board with your other 39 applicants total. We are ready to invest in this city. We have 20 to 25 employees that we'll be hiring. Our salaries are over $600,000 a year. Not including management salaries. Like, we are ready to invest in this city. We're ready to give back to this city. And we want to see the direction that you guys took on February 21st and start moving forward. You guys can't expect to open up a new application phase if you guys can't get us through this phase. That being said, we are already state licensed. We're ready to move forward. And we need to see City Council move this staff in the direction that the staff needs to move. And I understand that you guys you have to take your time on certain directions and stuff like that. But at 9 weeks, it's getting to a point where it's a little sad. We're paying rent. We've paid rent since June last year. That is over $120,000 in rent payments on our facility to move forward, not counting everything else, including salaries to keep people moving, keep people employed. This city deserves the money that we're ready to give this city, and we just need to see direction from the city to staff to make this happen already. You've directed on the 16 applicants, and what you do with the rest of the applicants. We want to see this industry thrive in this city. There's a lot more you guys can do with it, but if we can get some kind of momentum going forward to at least get the staff moving forward on the direction on the applicants that you've already approved, you start making more money. And I want to thank you guys on everything that you guys have done so far. It's been a long road. We've been in the city and we've been working on activism for the last 3 to 4 years with you guys. And we congratulate you guys on the moves that you have made, but it's time to step up and start moving the staff in the direction that needs to happen. And thank you guys for the time today. I actually go over for once, but thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Celine and Lizette. and Andrea. Welcome, Celine.
Good evening, council members and mayor. My name is Celine Perez. I'm the political director of the Inland Empire Labor Council. We represent over 89 different affiliates and over 200,000 union families in Riverside and San Bernardino counties. We are also part of a coalition with my fellow coalition members here today that is fighting for economic development that actually benefits and protects our communities and improves the quality of life that is so desperately needed and wanted by our families here. As you know, the San Bernardino International Airport Authority, which San Bernardino City and our mayor, as well as council member Teddy Sanchez, sit on that commission, has been developing the airport with the most recent in-process project being the Air Cargo Logistics Center called Eastgate. This project, like others we have seen, was agreed to by the commission due to the promise of jobs. But without input and adequate outreach to the community and your constituents, and the lack of guarantees of what are the quality of jobs, bypassing the concerns around traffic, air quality, safety for our residents when they're walking to school, and so forth. We believe that the San Bernardino has the obligation and responsibility to be a leader on this commission and to actually have guarantees through a community benefit agreement that addresses the job quality, the air quality, with some of it including having a project labor agreement for the construction work that includes standards with also guaranteeing local hire. What we've seen in a lot of these projects is that we are encouraging our youth as a pathway for quality jobs to join the building trades. And then we have no jobs to give them once they finish. And what we're seeing with a lot of these developments is that construction workers are brought in out of state or out of our counties to do this work. So we need to ensure that we actually provide these jobs for our communities. The other thing is actually having enforceable timelines and benchmarks of the number of jobs that are actually going to be created, and for them to be quality jobs, not part-time jobs, not jobs that you don't know if you're going to work 40 hours a week with no benefits. And creating restrictions around the temporary employment, and also for employers not to interfere if workers decide that they want to be unionized. So, and a guaranteed living wage. Other folks in the coalition will address some of the issues around the proposal around environment and air quality. But we do believe that San Bernardino, to be on a pathway to ensure success and prosperity, which we all want for the city, for the families here, for your constituents, has to have a community benefit agreement, not just for the Eastgate project and any other future projects that the airport will have. Although we have met with you, Mayor, regarding this issue before our town hall, we look forward to working with anyone else and you, Mayor, on this project.
Thank you. Your time is up. Our next speaker is Lizette Mendoza, Andrea Vidari, Ben Reynoso.
Good evening. My name is Lizette, and I'm a staff with the Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice, and also here tonight with the organizations that are in the room fighting for economic development and actually and that they actually benefit and protect our communities. On May 1st, we were here to address the council regarding sidewalk vending, and we thank you for listening to us and for taking the time to meet with us and to consider our recommendations, and we hope to continue that conversation offline. But we are also representing thousands of immigrant communities that reside in this city, right? 500 plus people marched with us on the streets of San Bernardino on May 1st to bring visibility to this specific community benefits agreement that we're calling for today, along with many other issues that affect them day to day, including sidewalk vending. And as mentioned earlier, right, Mr. Valvidia and Mr. Sanchez, you are on as commissioners of that airport authority, and we ask that you do the responsible thing, that we are about jobs, that we are about the future of this city, but that we hope that you all, every time that you choose a development plan, not just you two, right, but the rest of the council, that it be made responsibly. We are concerned that the engagement to the community regarding this airport, Eastgate Airport expansion, was not done or consulted with the community input, right? The folks that I talked to you about that marched the other day aren't just those 500. They represent thousands of families in the city of San Bernardino, along with the neighboring cities like Colton, Highland, Redlands, Loma Linda, just to name a few. And so we ask that as we talk about improving the city, again, that we talk about good jobs, clean air, and safe streets with less traffic. As mentioned earlier, our compañera Mary talked about the insufficient safety in our cities in terms of traffic and other issues that we've talked about here before. So again, we hope that you create an oversight board for monitoring and enforcement of standards implemented through a community benefits agreement between the community stakeholders and the project developer and the tenant. And that project developer can actually create a job center that will be the first source of employment at the Eastgate development and provide job training to workers from the surrounding areas and the workers who experience barriers to employment, including single parents, former foster youth, veterans, chronically unemployed, formerly incarcerated, and recipients of public benefits, all who make up our city of San Bernardino and those neighboring as well, and that we often forget about. When we talk about local communities and local hire, we talk about hiring folks that are part of the nearby zip codes or those specific radius to include them in this package or in this community benefits agreement.
Thank you. Your time is up. Our next speaker is Andrea. Welcome.
Hi, council members. My name is Andrea Vidaurre. I'm with the San Bernardino Airport Communities Coalition. I'm also with the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice. We're a community-based organization that's been focused on finding solutions to deal with the environmental threats that are causing the negative health impacts in our communities here in the Inland Empire. As you guys are very well aware of, we're in the county with the worst ozone in the nation. Just designated that from the American Lung Association. And this negative quality of air is coming from the goods movement and transportation sectors, and it's also what's causing this exacerbated asthma attacks, reduced lung function, reduced lung growth, and the literal cancer clusters that exist in this city. Which is why it's so important that this council takes on ambitiously and supports the community benefits agreement. Mayor Valdivia, we've spoken to you about this, and we want to stress to the rest of the council that this is something that your council needs to take up if you guys are serious about economic development and quality of life. This is an opportunity for all of you to seal a really good deal that could offset some of the impacts to the surrounding communities. This project is bringing thousands of more trucks, more cars, 26 more planes daily into a community that has some of the worst ozone in the entire nation. And right now, like many of the other projects that we pass, we're asking for the bare minimum. And you guys are asking the community to pay for these costs with their health, when you could be getting a commitment from the airport to set up, for example, soundproofing, providing air filters, retrofitting old diesel equipment. You could be asking them to study the impacts that this development is going to have, like other expansion projects have done in other airports. But instead, what are we doing? We're doing nothing. You guys are responsible for your constituents' health, and staying silent and turning an eye on this opportunity to get mitigations and resources to our communities, which is what we're always saying we don't have enough money for in the city, would be a sign of the negligence on economic development and quality of life for this community. I hope you guys take that very seriously.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ben Reynoso, followed by Debbie Yoakum, followed by Keith Wisniewski. Hi, Ben. Welcome.
How you doing, man? So I'm here today to stress the community benefit agreement because my personal take, I grew up here, and as a kid I was an organizer as well, and no one ever gauged us in a real meaningful way. It never felt like the representatives gave a damn. I'm going to be totally honest with you. So hearing that a process had gone on like this where Eastgate was passed, and we bring the community benefit agreement to you, it was cool. We appreciate you connecting us with boroughs. Teddy, I wish that you knew more. But the rest of the council, because it seems like an applied pressure situation, is the only way that this will get accomplished. If people have an idea and you're telling your neighbors about community benefits agreement, that if someone comes to occupy a warehouse, that it's not just going to be vacant first, because a lot of these are vacant, let's be real about it. Second, that if someone comes in, we're not just scraping the bottom and getting the regular tax money. Why aren't we getting real investment? Why aren't we being creative? I'm asking you to be creative. In a city that can't even see the mountains anymore, I hear this young girl come up and talk about the library. That's an answer to it. Let's get, boom, Amazon comes down. Library funding has to be. So that when people see warehouses and someone coming into it, they know there's investment in the community beyond the taxes. Let's be real about it. Do we care about this city? We'd like to think that all of you care about this city. My cohort here, Andrea, is talking about remedial things. You look outside, you know the air is bad. Why aren't we talking clean air filters? Why aren't we talking retrograde tech on trucks? Why aren't we assessing how the community feels about this? Because no one knows about it. That's the reality. Until we have an opportunity to really be here and be heard and feel that the impact is getting across to all of you, we're not going to go anywhere. San Bernardino's story is old and as timeless as that old painting on the All America City. Back then, All America City meant what? Probably the same exact thing. That people were left out. That voter suppression felt real. That the environment didn't matter. That our lungs don't matter. Come on, man. You guys know the deal. Everybody here hates going outside seeing the gray sky. That's it. If for nothing else, I want you to go home and think tonight, why is the sky gray in the city that I love so much? Why do I want to represent this city in this capacity if I'm only limited to the things that I consider to be cash flow, and that's it? Cash flow is the new warehouse, right? That's the story of our empire. The Inland Empire will be the biggest warehouse empire in America. Woo! No. We need real community benefits. Community benefits agreement. I want you all to remember that. A community benefits agreement. Because obviously things get across to the council when they get across, but the reality is it gets across when we all talk about it. When we all say community benefits. When it becomes a real thing. It's not real if they are the ones who we trust with the decisions. We've seen that. It's no offense to any of you.
Thank you, Ben. Your time is up. Thank you, sir.
It's not up.
Our next speaker
You see the
is
timer? Thanks,
our
man.
next speaker is Debbie Yoakum, followed by Keith Wisniewski, followed by Steve Miller. Ms. Yoakum, welcome.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Debbie Melvin Yoakum, and I'm listening to the people talk here, and I'm coming to these meetings. I'm a Riverside County resident, and I see the passion here, and that's why I'm here. I could volunteer at the Riverside County shelter, but I've been there, and I don't see the passion there that I see here, and that's why I'm standing here week after week after week and speaking on behalf of the shelter. I haven't heard but one person, even you, Mr. Mayor, supported the shelter at some point. And I haven't heard one person come up here and say, let's outsource. Maybe one person did say that, but she didn't think it should be all outsourced. She just had a plan for it, for a portion of it to be outsourced. But everyone here has said, let's keep this shelter open. And I don't know why you guys don't listen to them and why you fight so hard against the people that live here. And I saw the last two people get up and speak, and they had passion, just like we do. But it doesn't seem to make a difference. There's so many opportunities for you here to listen to the people that live in your community, that work in your community, that are raising children in your community. And I think that your job as an elected official is to listen to them and to work with them and to use their potential, and they're a benefit to you. They're going to make you stronger. And I don't see why you don't see that. When I was standing in Riverside in front of the Board of Supervisors, I was listening to Captain Green. I don't see him here tonight, but he didn't even know the date of the adoption event. He was fumbling for the date when they asked him when it was going to be. This was Tuesday. The adoption event was on Thursday. It was only 2 days from that date. He's distanced from the actual reality of the shelter. He doesn't seem to care. Ask any of these people here. They've been posting it. They've been promoting it. But the promotion doesn't happen at the city council level, except for in certain situations and certain people here on the council. And we support you because you support us. The people that listen to, the people that want to support you are the people that are standing here because we want to be a part of the shelter and your future. My father was raised in San Bernardino, and he's proud of the city. He's no longer living here, but he's a part of this community, and he loved it. And I want to be able to stand with him and be a part of that, too. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Keith Wisniewski, Steve Miller, followed by Paige Miller and Luis Ojeda.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, San Bernardino. Well, here I am again. I'm tired of this, really, to tell you the truth, but San Bernardino, our voice was finally listened to, and we got a response, but it wasn't from San Bernardino. It was from Riverside. Thank you, Riverside, for listening to San Bernardino residents. They did not approve the contract, but they put it on the table, which is real good, because San Bernardino is trying to put it under the table where it don't belong. It belongs here on top of our table, not Riverside's, ours. This is our shelter. This is our home. We're the taxpayers. $2.1 million, we can put that in our shelter. We can rebuild it. We can get a new one for $4 million. We got nonprofits. They're willing to put everything in. We just need your support. Multi Hill, Sharek, it's up to you guys. I mean, you said you had a chance to turn over your votes. We got Nichols, we got Sandra, we appreciate it. Sanchez, we like your vote too. Mr. Mayor, you promised us. We have proof as video. Cameras, videos don't lie. They use it all the time in the courts. And where are you at right now? Council meeting. What do we got? What do we have to lose? Let's gamble. Let's cut the red tape. I mean, let's bring the vendors back here. I was out last Saturday and beautiful. I enjoyed it. You know, I was there by surprise. I just happened to go by and I'm like, let me go check this out. And I liked it. And great tacos, great people. I mean, let's do it. I mean, let's stop the nonsense. You know, on May 1st, our Mr. Mayor said at the last thing he said was, I don't know why you guys keep bringing up the animal shelter deal. It's already been done. The contract's already been signed. Yeah, you signed it, all right. San Bernardino signed it. Riverside said no. So it's not over, and it won't be over. So I hope you all can work all together. This is not United States Congress. This is San Bernardino City Council. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Miller. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Council members. I've been I was a volunteer at your shelter for the last 5 years. Your shelter was the first one I ever stepped foot in, and it became my obsession. I mean, I literally gave up my job. I had a cushy little website job at home to be at your shelter every day. It became my second home. And since I started going there, all I wanted to do was find ways to make those dogs' life in that shelter better. We came up as a group with different things like an early boarding program to help them to not have to euthanize dogs for space. And last week or the week before, in the last Animal Commission meeting, I took them an idea about dog training. I've talked to certified trainers. I've gotten together with volunteers. We could go in and do group training sessions for the dogs in the shelter. Everybody, each person will take a dog. Each dog would do 2 training sessions a week, and they would do approximately six sessions. Because when you sign up your personal dog, they usually sign you up for 6. But we'll do 2 in a week instead of 1 every weekend. After that, I mean, it would just go from an hour of training, and then we would do a short pack walk out the back of the shelter, up Chandler to East Street, cross over Chandler, come back down, and put the dogs away. It wouldn't cost you anything, and I've heard stuff about, well, we can't do it because of the liability. Well, everybody that walks into that shelter with the intent of getting a dog out signs a release of liability form. Even when I've got approved as a volunteer, Mr. Mayor, when I got approved as a volunteer, I had to sign a release of liability form. So I don't understand the whole it's a liability issue. If that liability form is not good enough for everybody that walks in there that signs it, then what's the point of having it? And then they talk about, well, you know, we don't have enough staff, we can't monitor it. What's to monitor? When your staff takes a dog to an adopter or a volunteer, they don't stand there and watch them until they're done playing with that dog. You got volunteers there all day long playing with dogs. And as far as staff to get the dogs out, even though I'm not an approved volunteer, and that didn't happen because of any dog handling, I'm very capable of getting dogs out of the kennel for anybody that needs them. And I would be there at every training session. So, I mean, it's just, there's so many things you can do. You can do the training session. You can do agility programs. If you have a dog and you've ever seen the agility programs, all this stuff is amazing. It'll get the dogs out of the kennels. It'll help relieve kennel stress. It'll get them to have with the human interaction that they need. And I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank
Our
you.
next speaker is Paige Miller, followed by Luis Ojeda, followed by Christopher Kim, followed by Jose Reyes. Ms. Miller, welcome.
Hi, good evening, all. Tonight, it would have been great to have seen the animal shelter on the agenda. Sometimes on old business, you can bring an issue back, which is what it should have been done tonight. So I'm going to ask tonight, Councilmember Ibarra, Nickel, Charette, and Mulvihill, tonight, if the animal shelter is not discussed, it needs to be on the agenda next time with a request for proposal going out for the nonprofits. See what comes to the table. 45 to 60 days, whether it's the city manager, the acting city manager, solidify your agenda of how you wish to proceed. Do so tonight. This has gone on long enough. You want your word to be good. You need your credibility strong in a recovering city, and I got to tell you, this issue alone has undermined that and challenged it with each and every one of you. The $650,000 plus, need to know where that shelter money is, needs to be used on the animals. Lieutenant Affronti is now, actually went to the Animal Commission the other day. This issue needs to come back to you, not the Animal Commission. You guys need to run point on this. They have been left out at every turn. And it is it's a hard meeting to sit and listen to. But we went the other day, and Lieutenant Affronti, you will now be taking over, I believe, as manager, and we had met some time ago, and you had a good relationship with the animals, with some of the rescue groups, so I sincerely wish you the best of luck. I think some personalities are going to be getting along much better here and working with the rescue groups. Also, Lieutenant, if by chance a free suggestion, made to the council a number of times, they make their announcements every couple of weeks. It would be great to see them holding up a cat or a puppy dog and saying, this little animal here needs a home, because there's animals still in the shelter. I know they said they cleared the shelter. That's not quite accurate. So again, we need the right figures, the right numbers, the truth, the accuracy. Do this tonight. I am sure certain conversations were made frantically over to Riverside this entire week, but this issue must be dealt with tonight. It must be on the agenda. Take it seriously. You rarely get. The library and the shelter has garnered tremendous support. Those people need to be supported and listened to. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Luis Ojeda, Christopher Kim, Jose Reyes, and Stan Futch. Mr. Ojeda, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, public. Well, I have so much to say tonight, and after listening to the people from the environment groups, I follow them. Well, they follow me. I don't know. I go to Fontana. I go to the MAC meetings in Bloomington, and everywhere I go, they talk about the same thing. And every time I speak, I invite them. If they care so much about the environment, they should join me in my cleanups. I haven't seen them in my cleanups yet. So this is another opportunity for you guys. I'm going to have a cleanup with Omnitrans this coming Saturday at 8 o'clock. We're going to be meeting at a Baseline and Waterman. So if you're true to your word and you care about the environment, picking up trash, it helps greatly with that, okay? So please. So because I was a victim of this radical environmentals, because when I used to own trucks, I almost was put out of business because the state mandated that I had to retrofit my trucks or get new ones. So for most people that they're not in business, it's real easy to say, you know, you need to get all the bells and the whistles, but that costs money. So I want to thank Mayor, Council, and staff, and all the head of the departments for listening to the community with Tarko Naik, Mark and I. We are on the process of turning it into an event, Mr. Charette. Not a 1 million liability, 2 millions. So hopefully you're going to be able to join us, because I noticed that you only participate and support when it's a 100% sure deal. So hopefully you'll be there. So for everyone else, we're going to need a lot of volunteers to get this event going. It's something that all of the community supported. This last weekend when we did it, everybody showed interest and everybody was willing to do whatever they can. So you know, we're going to need a lot of volunteers for citizen patrol. So if the police is listening, you can help us with speeding up the process to get those applications approved for citizen patrols. I got many people that wants to volunteer. So hopefully, again, everybody's welcome to come on Saturday the 18th, 8 o'clock in the morning. We're going to be on the corners of Baseline and Waterman with Omnitrans. I'm going to do bus stop cleanup. So everybody's welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christopher Kim, followed by Jose Ruiz, followed by Stan Futch. Mr.
Good
Kim.
evening, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council members, everyone here. Not too long ago, San Bernardino was in bankruptcy. Good time to buy real estate, so we bought. And then San Bernardino got out of bankruptcy. Great. And then I heard that we're going to have a surplus this coming year of $743,000. Fantastic. We're on our way out. And then a couple of weeks ago, I heard in the news that instead of having a surplus, we're going to have a shortage of $2 million instead. Oh no, we're going to go back into bankruptcy. And then I'm also hearing that there's going to be there's also, I think, at least 10 lawsuits pending. If I'm not correct, please correct me if I'm wrong. At least 10 lawsuits, and the record of having lawsuits in San Bernardino don't do too well. And there you go, bankruptcy again. Bottom line, San Bernardino is the second poorest city in the United States, just behind Detroit. The poverty rate here in San Bernardino is 34.6%, and Detroit has 37.6%. We're poor. There's no money here. Nobody's bringing in money here. My company, we try to build assisted living, upper class assisted living place here. I found a decent place. And all my partners said, "Are you effing kidding me in San Bernardino?" And they laughed at me. So the bottom line is that something's got to change. There's a lot of things that we're talking about happening in San Bernardino, but it's not moving anywhere. It's got to move. I mean, you got how many? I mean, the fastest thing is the cannabis thing, unless there's something else I don't know about. So let it happen. It's, one of the council member last time, I forget. Pardon me. I don't know. I don't remember who it was. Suggested just let it have more. Let's have more. Let the market figure it out. But make sure to collect all the taxes. Then we'll be okay. We'll be fine.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Our next speaker is Jose Ruiz, followed by Stan Futch, followed by Don Griggs.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Baldovilla, and also Councilman Sanchez. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Good job last council meeting. Good work. I just want to remind you of some of the great things our tax dollars are to support. And we do have dollars here. It's perjury if you say there aren't. There's dollars here. Here in San Bernardino, or as I like to say, suburbo, like for the great suburban areas. Let's see. We need nice pedal boats in the Central Lake Park to help keep this triple-digit heated city cleanly hydrated, and with a playground on the island for the kids and a friendly vendors, so business owners and employees can have a place to unwind, and a great carousel parking lot building on East Street and Court with a carousel on top where a mother can go to drop her kids off when they go shopping. And we can keep the street smooth, so we can have a Grand Prix here mixed in with classic cars. And we can make our city presentable for the bowl games over at Quake Stadium, where we can have a multi-terrain field of grass and red clay when we play attack ball. Although we can still allow AstroTurf in front of our houses when we use real grass in our stadiums and parks. And so in regards to an animal care, the Boneyard over on 27th Street, on D Street, as in D for dog, is a natural dog park because it's an inactive graveyard. So people can bring their dogs there and put up and I'm just going to put up a dispensary myself because you guys take so long in doing everything. And there we can put up a dispensary, and all these people who are collecting extra bags can put the bags inside the dispensary, and we don't need to disrespect the place by covering it with all the dog droppings. Anyway, and the park can be clean and problem-free. And since and because after the last time I presented this great ideas to the city council in January, they cut down the trees in front of the space between the sidewalk and my house, and without consulting me. And when I called to find out what their notices were for, and they wouldn't tell me, and they came down and did this a different day than the notice had stated. By the way, the trees in the park and the city lands belong to me, the taxpayer. It belongs to us, the taxpayer, not the employees that are getting paid. So Mobile Hill over on 407 West 25th Street and the city Mangler, but mainly Mobile Hill, because I guess the city of Mangler is gone, owe me thousands of dollars a day, $1,000 a day for the 2 trees and the graffiti on the front of my house and the street. Since they gave the 14-day notice, I give them 14 days after January, where this happened, starting in February, which means today they owe me $315,000, and tomorrow they owe me $318,000. Not you, Mayor, not the city, so don't worry. And tomorrow, and so they don't need to be coming down and bothering me about my house and my estate. Okay,
Thank you, sir. Your time is up. Your time is up.
Well, thank you
sir.
for the time.
Thank you.
And awesome job. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir.
And I hope you understand these things.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Stan Futch, followed by Don Griggs, followed by Asher Jones. Mr. Futch, welcome.
Evening. Mr. Mayor, City Council, and city staff. My name is Stan Futch. I'm the president of Westside Action Group. I had a speech all set up for the evening, but I'm going to go off script. Tell you what I did on Monday. At 6 p.m., I went to a task force meeting for the San Bernardino Unified School District. And at that meeting, 9 students, African-American students, spoke. And they were asked what they would think was the perfect school. They didn't want tech. They didn't want stereos all over this place. What they wanted was to be included. To be included. I was surprised when I heard that. Saying that, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I had a WAG meeting. And fortunate for me, your Chief Eric McBride was there. And he comes, and we appreciate him being there. He also brought one of his recently promoted lieutenants. If you think about it, what I'm here for is the same thing those students wanted, to be included. I think it's so important that we have more diversity in this city's police department. Not only do I just think it is, the Westside Action Group got together. We've put a plan together. I will give the plan to your, and each of you will get a copy. Going back to what happened at 6 p.m., one of the students there said what he's going to do when he graduates. And he wanted to be a policeman. And I'm sorry the chief's not here, because I wish he was here to hear what I'm saying. He's out in the hallway discussing whatever. But I wish he was here, because there's a young man that wants to be a policeman. And one of the problems is we are not nurturing our community to join this force. We need to get our people at the explorer level and raise them up to become peace officers for the city of San Bernardino. Take a look at our plan. We put some time into it. Talk to the chief. Talk to the city attorney. You put a plan together that's going to work to get this city diversified. It has to happen. We can no longer go on year after year after year, not diversified police department, fire department, city. Same song yesterday, same song today. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Don Griggs, followed by Asher Jones, followed by Jason Martinez. Welcome, Mr. Griggs.
Thank you very much. Don Griggs, and a former president of the West Side Action Group, and I'm here to expound on my current president, Stan Futch, and the other member, Mr. Brown. As a former president of WAG and a longtime resident of the West Side in San Bernardino, and a one-time Park and Recreation Commissioner for this city, I was really shocked to hear at the WAG meeting last week from what was said by your chief, our chief here. I said to myself, if this is really happening, here we go again. Having a new face of acting police chief McBride saying what he is going to do, and worse yet, what he had done by displaying 5 faces that do not look like me to supervise your community policing plan. I was even more surprised to hear that none of you even asked a question of the chief, especially my friend Fred and Basine. You should have said, isn't there something wrong with this picture? I have nothing against those selected, but from my years of discrimination and breaking racial barriers, and I've broken quite a few, and I'm not patting myself on the back, and I'm not here to tell you my story, but I was in the Marine Corps. I broke some barriers there. I won't even tell you all the things I did, but I broke some barriers color-wise. Also with Edison Company, I was the first black manager for the Eastern Division, which covered from Ontario all the way to Palm Springs. With Nordstrom, when I was there, 10% of Nordstrom's, that my group made sure they hired minorities. And as well, I was the first black owner of a store in Inland Center Mall, as well as Tyler Galleria. So I have some experience as to what needs to be done and what has to be done. My concern, number one, and the main concern, 114 years and no black police chief in the city. I don't understand that. No one over the rank of captain in 114 years. Something's wrong with that picture. You need to get busy. That's a shame. I'm ashamed to even say that. We need to get busy and get that done. All the firemen, policemen, electrical workers, gas company, water company, they thrived on not knowing who to hire. But they knew who, but they always hired someone they knew. And it seems like that's been going on not only in those above places, but also in the police department. Promotions is something that can be done. It can be done quite easily, but you need someone to lift up a hand and help these people. And we need someone there that's going to take care of those. It can be done. I saw it. I did it. And I tell you what, you need someone responsible that can reach down and grab someone that looks like me to help this department and this city get back on the right track. It's a shame. And by the way, I don't know if the name was mentioned when you mentioned the officers that were killed in action or died, but we had one black policeman in 1947, I believe, was the first black policeman in this city. I don't know if his name was on the rolls or not, but if not, he should be included. He was killed in a car accident, if I'm correct, in 1947. Let's make sure his name is also included.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Asher Jones, followed by Jason Martinez, followed by Mary. Mary. Okay, thank you, Mary. Hi, Asher. Welcome.
Hello. This is Joey Chastain. He's my friend, and he's dead because a car hit him off of Kendall and Palm. I was the last to see him, and the guilt I felt because I didn't say anything, because I didn't stop him from getting on that bus, because I wasn't a more significant person to him, affects me every single day. I wish you could know him. His smile, his tenacity, his opinions. They were so great and varied. His Facebook friends were like family, and his community supported him. And when we lost him, we lost a great person. So I want you all to know what Joey Chastain looks like. I want you to all feel our pain, because that's what happens when someone gets hit off of Kendall Palm every single time. They lose a family member, a friend, a loved one. I knew Joey for just a small time, but the time I knew him, I got to really know him. The talks that we had were lengthy and very deep, and I was glad to have them. Sometimes he got on my nerves, but that was Joey and his opinions. And I wouldn't change that for the world, because that was him, and he was authentic. He's an SBVC, San Bernardino Valley College alumnus. He was in the choir. He was in film. He loved life and celebrating it. Within reason was his film, his baby, his project, the thing that he was able to finish before he suddenly passed. He loved poetry. He loved writing. He loved himself, which was a big thing for him because he had an issue with mental health. And so today, I want to honor Joey and his struggles, but also remember Joey as someone who persevered, who died in a good way where he was happy. Happiness to someone who deals with mental health is not easy. So for Joey to die knowing that his movie got made, that he was working on so many projects, that he had so many hopes and dreams left to accomplish, for me, that takes a little bit away of the guilt, but the guilt is still there. I wish Joey was here to give you his opinion, because Lord knows I know he has an opinion. And he would love to be here because he's a community activist, an organizer, and he loves San Bernardino. And he wanted to give back to his community. But unfortunately, a month before his 40th birthday, he died. Something needs to happen.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason Martinez, followed by Arthur. I'm trying to read this, sorry. Arthur Anderson, I guess. Arthur left. Okay. Carol Moyer. Mr. Martinez, welcome.
Buenos dias. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Jason Martinez. I'm from a community called Chica. We have a space out here in San Bernardino, and you all have probably never seen me up here, and there's a reason for that. Like my compañera Mary, you know, we hear issue after issue after issue come up to this board only for community not to feel heard. It is a constant struggle that people here in San Bernardino deal with, and to quite frankly, it's not friendly, and I never want to come here for that. But today, ahora, estamos aquí para Joey. We're here for Joey Chastain, who, you know, he was killed. Not by a car, not by lack of lights, by a lack of a system that cares to listen to its community, that continues to allow things to go on. That we are not funding our projects, our streets, our hoods, our communities, and people are hurting because of it. And I could go down a list of things we're all dealing with. We have more liquor stores here than libraries. We are dealing with warehouse issues that, quite frankly, don't care about the economic development of our community. They care about money in their pockets, and it screws up our air quality, and it keeps us economically impoverished. We deal with corrupt cops and politicians on a daily basis who, when crime actually happens in the community, they pass by where it happens and then drive off like nothing had happened. I've seen it. And a lot of us here have actually dealt ducking bullets if that was the case. And homelessness, don't even get me started on the way this city council fails to address these issues, not in a way that actually thinks homeless people as actual human beings. I can go on and on about the list of things that are going on. The lack of funding that we have. We don't have funding for these shelters or libraries. We don't have funding for these lights. We have potholes in the roads that, quite frankly, when I went to Instagram and saw somebody tag the city council on a hip hop song saying that there's too many potholes, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because that's how we deal with trauma out here. That's the reality of our situations. Joey dealt with a lot of mental illness, because at the end of the day, mental illness is the root of our issues. Black and brown youth are not criminals. We're just dealing with a lot of issues that we've never been able to work through. And Joey, he worked through it hard, seeking therapists, going to circles, and listening to the community to find out what to do. And maybe y'all need to take that advice. It's not too late to fix these issues or to make amends, but it starts by listening to your community. Thank you.
Sir. Our next speaker is Carol Moyer, Arthur Anderson, and Tricia Hollis. Welcome, ma'am. And can you state your name for us?
Carol Moyer.
Thank you, Ms. Moyer. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. I'm here to speak mostly about the shelter. Gandhi said a long time ago that a country is known by its treatment of its children and its animals. Therefore, certainly also a city is. We have animals to take care of. They won't be taken care of by Riverside. I went to the shelter today and I walked out with 5 little dogs, 10 days old, with their eyes closed. They were strays. It boggles my mind how they strayed. Certainly the people that turned them in would not have been driving them to Riverside. Riverside put, I believe, 658 cats to sleep in the last few months, 254 dogs. They don't have space. All of these issues with San Bernardino cost money, but to take care of one in lieu of the other is not going to make a balanced city. We have had issues since I taught years ago of bullying with children. Children need to be taught empathy. They need to be taught compassion. You can't do that from a book. I had always hoped there would be some kind of programs with shelters, Humane Society, because to watch children interact with an animal is life-changing. It's incredible. It teaches things we could never teach in any other manner. I think it's a teachable moment in time in this city. You can't not have libraries. You can't not take care of your animals. They'll be on the streets. Those people would have had to pay $275 to legally turn those puppies in. I'm surprised they even bring them down. The shelter has deteriorated to such a point that a little dog that I adopted from there is suffering from ulcers. She was there 14 days because she was over several holidays. They're not that different. They're mammals, so are we. We need to show compassion to our children, to our elders, to the homeless, to everyone. It needs to be a balanced picture. If all of it has to be less, it's better than nothing. We need to have a balanced city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Moyer. Arthur Anderson, Tricia Hollis, I don't see them. And our final speaker is Majid Siraj. Mr. Siraj, are you around? Oh, there you are, sir. Welcome.
Honorable Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity. My dad is 89 years old with severe dementia. Brilliant physician, 89, who looked at me the other day and he said, "Where is your dad?" I changed his diaper at home tonight, I fed him, and I came here to speak with you. The City Council has instructed the staff to reverse engineer a new cannabis ordinance and delay additional licenses for another year. This is a travesty. What does another application round mean? Are you putting us through the same corrupt process again? Do we have to pay again? How many additional licenses will be granted? What if during the year the court comes down hard on the city? As it currently stands, there are approximately 8 to 9 lawsuits by formidable and well-funded opponents against the city teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, but willing to write 6-figure checks to BB&K to defend a deeply flawed and corrupt cannabis licensing process. Someone astutely told me the city has picked a fight with the wrong industry. The city is in this predicament because of an incompetent community development department who has consistently lied to the city council and a corrupt city manager in bed figuratively with her favorite applicants. Now that the disgraced architect of cannabis licensing, Andrea Miller, and her incompetent puppet Jeff Bloom are both gone, the city is left holding the bag. Recently obtained documents from HDL's Phase 2 reveal jaw-dropping information about the lack of proper applicant vetting and qualifications by the city. Here are a few. HDL notes, if this applicant should advance to the next phase, it should be questioned about the silent partners or other entities with ownership interest. Did this happen? Probably not. Number 2, although the application briefly states the name of the investors, it does not state the details of each investor's role. Number 3, articles of incorporation, while signed by the applicant, it provides no indication that it has been filed with the Secretary of State. Number 4, live scan and identification information was provided for a business manager, mind you, and not any of the corporate owners. It is obvious the lack of proper applicant vetting by the city means that any criminal enterprise can simply find a local business manager, pay off city officials, and get a cannabis license in the city of San Bernardino. Mr. Charette, you hit the nail on the head when you said, and I quote, in the final analysis, what we did wasn't right or perfect. I'm not asking the city to be perfect. I'm asking the city to be right. With the new ordinance on the horizon, it is incumbent upon the city to get it right and allow additional licenses to qualified applicants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Siraj. We are moving on to our consent calendar items, and we will poll the council members for their respective polls if they have any, and we'll start with Councilman Sanchez. Councilman?
I would like to pull item 7 for questions.
7, thank you, sir. Councilmember Barra.
I'd actually like to table item 7 for after our budget meetings. I have a question on item 10, a question on number 14, and just clarification on item 11. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. Councilman Charette.
I have a comment here. On our laptop, we're off by one number. Sorry. We're off by one number on the items. So I'm pulling number 7, but on here I think it's number 8.
You know what, I think when I added the proclamation.
Yeah. And I just want to clarify that. I want to make sure everyone understands that this says one thing and this says something else.
Would that be for the basic compensation?
Right. So I think we should be calling it by name rather than by number right now. This is right, by the way, that everybody's looking at. But it's not right here. Okay, so so number 7, or on the laptop, number 8, and then number 15, which I think is 16 on the laptop.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Nickel.
My items have already been
Thank you,
requested.
sir. And Councilman Mulvihill.
My items have already been pulled. Thank
Very
you.
good. All right.
What number?
Motion for the balance?
Mayor,
Yes,
if I
I'm
may- Move the
sorry.
balance.
Just a moment, please. Our city manager, yes, any administrative pools?
Yes, please. I'd like to pull number 8, and that's the excess insurance. I'd like to pull number 10 for the Ford vehicles, and number 11, because of the issues raised tonight, and that's the one on the contract for the pavement rehabilitation.
8, 10, and which ones?
11.
11. You'd like those administratively pulled?
Yes.
Those are pulled from the agenda, not for discussion.
Yes, I'd like more time. Correct. I'd like more time.
Okay, at this time, okay, so we will, council member, you had 10 and 11 pulled, 8 pulled, very good. All right, do we have a motion to move the balance?
Second.
Very good. If you register your votes and
On the consent calendar, Mayor, the motion to approve is made by Mr. Charette, the second by Mr. Nickel, and the item passes 5-0.
Thank you, Ms. City Clerk. And our first pull is item number 7. And we'll just go in order of wards that were pulled. I have Councilmember Sanchez, Councilmember Barra, Councilman Charette. I don't know, Mr. Mulvihill, if you have comments on it. Councilman Sanchez.
Yes, I'd like to start off even with just the title, the subject, Update to the Basic Compensation Plan for San Bernardino Police Department. So this isn't a vote to make an adjustment to the budget, correct?
Correct. We just had a small amount that was in excess of the budget amount, which was about $13,000 above what we budgeted for.
So then also, this isn't also a vote to raise the salaries for these police officers, right? This is actually, just as I understand it, this is to reflect what those costs are going to be for those positions on the binder that shows all wages for these city employees, right?
That's correct. We
Yeah.
call it the salary schedule. And this
Okay.
goes back to August of 2018.
2018.
Yes.
Okay. So then I see here that the obligation to the city to make these pay raises is obligated because of our MOU with the Police Management Association, right? So this MOU is a contract.
That's correct. It was a resolution that was passed by the council in 2015,
2015.
five-year agreement.
So this MOU is a contract between the Police Officers Union and the city to contract for certain wages and certain raises for this 5-year period.
Yes, this is actually called, it's a resolution, but it has the same intent as what you're talking about. And this is for the Police Management Association. The Police Officers Association will be coming back to you as soon as we resolve something we're negotiating with them.
Okay. So then I see here that the two positions in question are for the Assistant Chief as well as the Chief of Police. So, and I want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly and that the council understands this correctly. What we contracted for was a minimum of every year a 3.5 increase, and then the ceiling set at a survey, so what police officers get paid in a dozen other cities here in the city of in the state of California.
Yes, and our HR director can give you more information on how that salary was conducted.
Good evening. So every year, as part of the salary survey, we would have to conduct per the employee agreements. We would survey per the agreements 57 cities based on the size of the cities of 100,000 to 250. And then once we complete the survey process, we'll come down to the middle 10. Due to that survey result, it was above the 3.5%. So we have to go back to council and to pretty much confirm the salaries and then to update the salary schedule.
Okay. And again, this is an obligation because of our MOU with the Police Management Association, which we negotiated with back in 2015, right? So
That's correct, and that was as part of the bankruptcy as well.
So per the bankruptcy, our negotiations going through bankruptcy, per our negotiations with the Police Management Association, we are contractually obligated to pay this raise.
That's correct.
So if we were to say, hey, we don't want to fund this additional amount, pay these raises for these, and in this case, these particular officers, the city would be in breach of the contract they made with the Police Management Association, right?
That's correct.
So I would like legal counsel to walk me through what would be the implications of going through with that?
What are the implications of you not paying them?
Yes, not paying, in this case, the additional 2.24% for the chief, and for the assistant chief, the 3.56%.
As a practical matter, if you did not abide by the obligations of the MOU, which is signed and entered into by the city, there could be an enforcement of that MOU, and so they could seek to go to court and have an order you to fulfill the obligations under the MOU.
So, of course, we can never 100% guarantee what the results would be of going to trial. But in your experience, what would likely be the outcome of seeking litigation in order to deny these wages or these raises for these two positions?
So I would opine, I have had an opportunity to look at the MOU. It is very clear to me that the MOU requires these increases in, or what I would call salary adjustments. And what you're doing this evening is you are not effectuating really the salary increases. You're just updating your salary charts to reflect the MOU that was adopted in 2015.
So 2015. So this council has not made a decision to raise the wage. That decision was made by the council in 2015.
That's correct. It was negotiated with the PMA back in 2015.
And if this council decides that they don't want to move forward with that raise, we would very likely end up in litigation, a case we would very likely lose, requiring us to pay legal fees, attorney's fees?
There is an attorney's fees provision in the MOU, and I would just say to the council, I would not advise you to do anything but to comply with the MOU that is adopted unless there's some compelling reason. You don't get to just decide that you don't want to comply with a legally enforceable agreement.
So when is this MOU expiring, and when do we re-enter into negotiations with the PMA?
It expires June 30th, 2020, so we'd be renegotiating at that time or prior to that.
So I think that this council should remember this day and remember our fiscally precarious situation and be, I guess, direct staff and encourage staff to really be cognizant of that fact when we go into negotiations with both the POA and the PMA. But I do think that it would be prudent of this council to continue to fulfill our obligations per the contract that the council of 2015 had approved. So I make a motion that we approve item 7 and give direction to staff to review what I think this council will be discussing, and be aware of the fact that we need to ensure that we are getting the best deal possible when negotiating with both the POA and the PMA. So the motion is to approve this item 7.
So to approve the staff recommendation?
The staff recommendation, yes.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, very good. Council Member Charette. We'll come back to you, Council Member Barra, if that's okay. Councilman Charette?
I'm not going to support it. You want a compelling argument. A compelling argument is that we're going backwards financially, and where I come from, we don't give raises when we're making $7 million cuts in a department and when we're making 7% cuts across the board. So I understand that this has been approved back in 15. It's an MOU. I frankly, in this case, with what's going on fiscally in this community right now, and the lack of support of services that we're providing to our community right now, it's been talked about tonight: lights, libraries, animal shelters, etc. I can't support raises.
Okay, thank you, Council Member. And then, Mr. Mulvihill, did you have any comments on it?
Yes. I'm thinking about the sequencing of these approvals. I'd like to make a substitute motion that we continue this until after the budget discussion, because we have had the shelter discussion, which no one's taken responsibility for the shelter, so it looks like we're going to be paying for it for the near future. Also, the library, there's proposal of closing all the branch libraries. It's been proposed that the Quality of Life team is going to be closed down, which is, I think, one of the most successful programs that the city provides, and I can say more about that when we get to the budget sessions. And also, we'll get to the CalPERS. We have a deficit of CalPERS of over $400 million that at some point in time is going to have to be paid. So what I'm saying is that we should take all these budget items and put them into the budget review cycle. And so I'm asking that we continue this until that cycle. So I'm not saying that we're going to deny it, but the point is I think we realistically should put it in the context of how we're allocating the funds, and again, people's concerns about raises not just for the POA, PMA, but for the broad city situation. And I think in terms of compelling reasons, that's a compelling reason.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Councilmember Ibarra.
That was actually going to be my motion. I wanted to actually wait until after we review the budget, if it's okay with everybody, because we are asking every department to do a 7% cut on their budget. So it wouldn't be fair that we're asking for libraries to shut down or other departments to go to do budget cuts when we're here promoting and giving salary increases. I think in the future, when we do an MOU, it would be beneficial to also, when we're comparing all of these cities, to look at the median income for those cities, how we compare financially with them. Our revenue does not compare to what a lot of these cities are doing, and it would be something that we should be looking more into before we go into agreements with MOUs in this example. So I also would like to table it until after we review the budget. Continue it, yeah.
Okay, Ms. City Attorney, do you have comment? Sure.
Well, I just have a question. I mean, what we're really talking about here, according to the agenda item, from what I can see, is a total dollar amount of about $14,000, give or take.
That's in addition to what was budgeted. I want to remind you, this goes retroactive back to last August. It's just taken time to negotiate.
Okay, and that $14,000 is that
above and beyond what we budgeted.
Right, and that's the retroactive component as well, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess my question to legal counsel is, given that this is really a $14,000 matter, which is no small matter, I mean, $14,000 is money, it's real money, but I guess my biggest concern is the risk associated with not taking action. Is there a potential risk associated with us continuing this item tonight? If not, I'm comfortable with a continuation, but I think we have to weigh what the consequence of that might be in terms of the risk and what that potential cost would be, given that we do essentially have an obligation under the MOU to follow through with this.
Yeah. If I may, I would like to just briefly refer to the resolution that adopted the MOU. It was unanimously approved by 7 votes. It's dated November 20th of 2015, and it reads as follows. For each year of this agreement that it's in effect, the monthly salaries of our local safety members in this organization shall be increased by 3.5%. Shall. In addition, so plus, salary surveys shall be conducted annually in accordance with the city charter, section 186, even if the city charter is amended or repealed. So you incorporated by reference in this document, whoever drafted it and whoever adopted it and approved it, you incorporated by reference section 186. It then says the provisions of this section shall continue during the term, regardless of whether city charter section 186 is repealed, or otherwise modified. And it says these salary increases shall be effective on August 1st in accordance with the city charter. My understanding is that what you're being asked to do tonight is to reflect the changes that should have been made August 1st of 2018. We're not talking about the ones that you'll have to make for August 1st of 2019. So you're already almost an entire year behind.
Okay, so we have oh, sure, Councilman Charette.
I'm going to stand.
Sorry.
Oh,
hold on.
I still haven't got an answer to our question. What is the risk of continuing?
So right, legal counsel doesn't like to opine in open session, but I would say to you, this appears to be a legally adopted agreement. It appears to be enforceable. I know of only one way.
You have an obligation.
You have an obligation, and I only know of one way. Should the city declare that it is in some type of fiscal emergency, that is an entirely different situation. But unless you're willing to go in that direction, I believe these provisions are enforceable.
Very good. Councilman Charette.
I was just going to say that won't be the last vote that I made over my 10 years that I wish I had made a different vote. We've just experienced one, and that was with the animal shelter, and that's getting a lot of attention. And so I don't have a problem changing. I'm tired of not being able to change things because, I mean, you got to look at the situation as it is today, and you got to live within your means. And because we approved something 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, doesn't mean that it still stands today. I get contracts and all that, but people break contracts all the time, and I just don't support when we're going in the wrong direction financially. I kind of don't care about the past. I'm looking at today and the future.
Thank you, Councilman.
I will stick by my second to continue it, though, to discuss it at the budget time.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Sanchez, and if we could take a vote here, there's a substitute motion by Councilman Mulvihill, and so, Mr. Sanchez.
I want to remind you of 2 things. First, we're risking losing a lot more money if we get dragged into court for this. And this is all, I think, a matter of posturing to show, no, we have to be prudent. Well, we should have been prudent back in 2015. That's when we had the opportunity to make the right decision, and we didn't. That's why it's important that we read this, that we study this, because we're paying for that now. If we don't, you can go and do the political posturing and say you're not going to support this, but we get dragged into court, we pay that, we pay interests, we pay attorney's fees. All for political posturing. I want to make sure that our city survives another 100 years.
You're making an assumption that this is...
I'm
being fiscally responsible, period.
I'm going to tell you what it appears like, and that's exactly what it appears like. Second of all, if it in fact isn't a decision here to release, to, I guess, loosen the purse strings in order to make this payment, then I think we're arguing over nothing, because this is not an update or a budget decision. It looks like it's just an update to the basic compensation, which means it's that binder with every employee's pay. It's an update to what they get paid for their position in each department. So I'd like a legal counsel to maybe give me an explanation. Is this a budget decision? Is this a salary decision, or is this just an update to the basic compensation?
So my understanding is that you're being asked to adopt the salary schedule because your staff incorporates what legally enforceable documents require them to incorporate. They don't need to come back and ask you for permission to do that. When a legally approved document tells staff to do something, that's what they do. They're simply trying to bring their salary schedule up to date, as I understand, is what they're trying to do at this moment.
So the pay is already there, and whether we vote for this or not, they're going to be receiving their pay. This means that we will have an outdated compensation plan.
One other thing I'd just like to point out, as you know, I'm fairly new with the city. In the resolution itself that approved the MOU, it does say that the city is going to append this resolution or append the MOU to its plan of adjustment, and the plan and confirmation order shall provide for court approval of the terms set forth herein. So in addition to being just an enforceable MOU, it was part of your adjustment plan and was actually approved by the court. I don't see 5-year terms very often, but I think one of the reasons why this was a 5-year term was to provide some stability to you. It was probably negotiated as a reasonable amount of increase versus going back to the bargaining table over and over and over again. And that's how I read this document.
Councilman Mulvihill.
Yeah, again, my substitute motion is simply to continue it, not necessarily to deny it. I think the public will be much more engaged when during the budget hearings, and they'll have a better idea of just why we make the decisions the way we do. They'll have the comments to make. We've got a relative handful of people here. They'll be much more engaged with regard to the budget discussion. And this is simply part of what I should say is budget information that we should, again, be talking about in addition to the library closures, the shelter closures, the quality of life team closures, and so forth. And so what I'm just moving is that we continue this to the budget discussion so that the citizens will have a much more available opportunity to hear what we're saying and to hear what the city attorney has said with regard to our obligations. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So we have, let's bring this to a vote here. We have a substitute motion by Councilman Mulvihill for a move to continue. To what date, sir? To the budget workshop or?
To the budget workshops.
Okay, all right. So that's the motion, seconded by Councilman Charette. And if members would cast their vote, please, on that
I'd like to
substitute
do
motion.
a voice vote on this one. Mr. Sanchez? No. Ms. Ibarra?
Yes.
Mr. Charette?
Yes.
Mr. Nichol?
No.
Mr. Mulvihill?
Yes.
The vote is 3-2.
And the motion fails or passes?
Passes.
Ms. City Attorney,
So, the city clerk, I'm sorry. I forgot about Ms. Richard being gone. So the item does fail.
okay, so the floor motion is before us.
Before.
And so we revert back to Councilman Sanchez. Did Councilman have a second on the floor motion? I believe he did by Councilman Nichol.
By Mr. Nichol. Yes.
Okay,
And if
well,
you can
here we
just-
go, folks. Let's call the roll on that floor motion.
Actually, if you just push your buttons, we're back on.
We're not doing roll call?
No, the only reason we did a roll call on that was because it was an alternate.
Okay,
motion.
very good. If members would cast their vote.
Okay, on item 7, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Sanchez, the second by Mr. Nichol, and the item fails 3-2 with Ms. Ibarra and Mr. Charette voting no.
Okay, so we're at an impasse here. We'll refer it back to city manager. Let's move on, folks. Our next item that is pulled is council member Charette. Item number 15, sir.
That's the item regarding committees, and I think, as everyone kind of knows, I've been kind of a stickler. I think there's a place for committees, and these are, I think, ad hoc committees, but I just don't support the idea. Again, this is somewhat of a financial issue. We've got staff that's paid on a daily basis to vet things that are coming before the council. We have an opportunity to talk to staff. I don't see the need for additional committee meetings. It costs staff time. And I've always said that even if they're on salaries and not being necessarily compensated for that, I think if they're not being compensated when they're working overtime for some of these meetings that go on after 5 o'clock, I'd rather see them at home with their families. So I don't support all these additional committees. I think we're a body of 7 people that discuss the issues here in front of the council, in front of the community, and so I don't support committees.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Mulvihill.
I would tend to support Councilman Charette. Once you have a committee assignment, the chairman feels compelled now and then to hold a meeting. We had committees, I think, for the first 2 or 3 years that I was on the council, and I have to tell you that I don't think there was more than 1 or 2 meetings that anything worthwhile took place. We can have committees ad hoc when issues come up, but the point is that for some reason, people feel compelled that they need to have meetings, and really, nothing really takes place. And we have all kinds of potential contact with the community that occurs all the time. Every day it seems that there's yet another invitation that we go to, an opening or ribbon cutting or whatever it happens to be. We should be doing more of those kinds of things that really help represent the city. And if we do have an important issue, then we can, again, have a official committee that has a real objective. So I'd just like to make a substitute motion to say that any committees that we have should be ad hoc.
Okay, all right.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you.
In other words, if I could make a comment, in other words, as an ad hoc, if we find as a body that we need something, and I do have one comment here on this one that was marked as the Education Bridge Committee. I do find some value in that because that is a kind of a collaboration with the school district, but I don't know that it's necessarily should be coming from 3 council members. I think that we as a body, as a city, need to be collaborating with the school district on a different level than just a committee meeting. So I wanted to get that on record, but to understand, if we feel there's a need for a special meeting, we can establish 3 people to go ahead and vet the issues.
Yes, that's my intent.
Okay, and I second that.
Okay, the item has been substituted, and Clerk, would you clarify the substitute motion?
The motion for, the alternate motion for number 15 was made by Mr. Mulvihill, seconded by Mr. Charette, that all council committees should be ad hoc. And so, as that was an alternate, I would like to take a voice vote when you're ready.
Hold on, Ms. City Clerk. Thank you for the clarification. Mr. Mulvihill, let me engage just a few seconds here on your substitute motion. Are you suggesting then that the names enumerated in the backup are not ad hoc, because that's the very nature of their status, is that they are created via ad hoc, and that they have the need, as provided in the city charter, to make that? Maybe the city manager could provide some clarity here to help us understand it.
Yeah, just the way you set this up, you assign membership and so forth, and somebody feels compelled to hold a meeting. And from my point of view, if an issue comes up, we can, committee members who are interested can volunteer for that committee. And again, I was a member of the Educational Bridge Committee for the number of years I was on the council, probably 3 or 4, and it was an important committee. We met with the school district, but in the very end, I don't think we ever accomplished anything. We had a couple of programs that we promoted, and they never really accomplished anything.
Ms. City Manager?
I just wanted to point out that although these are called subcommittees, they really will act as ad hocs. They all say in the resolution, meet as needed to study, research, and make appropriate recommendations to the mayor and city council. So they won't meet on a regular basis. It would be as needed,
ad hoc style. Correct. Councilman Nichol?
Yeah, I think there needs to be some clarity in the item, because it does say the proposed committees will be standing subcommittees. So my understanding is that they are ad hoc in nature.
Correct.
That
So
was
let
the intent.
the purpose of the verbiage standing ad hoc committees, because there was a resolution, provide some background for us, Ms. City Manager. The purpose of a standing committee was only because the reference used in the resolution, is my understanding.
Well, that's correct, but you would also be appointing members as
Correct.
opposed to doing it when the issue came up as an ad hoc later. So you would have standing members once you appoint them.
And so the provisions of the resolution are as needed, ad hoc style. And so I don't know if that provides more clarity to you.
I'd stay with my motion.
Mayor,
Okay.
Mayor, if I may, just so you
Sure.
make sure. The Brown Act provides that if you're going to have committees that are truly ad hoc, meaning they're appointed by the mayor or they're less than a quorum, an ad hoc committee does not have to have an agenda, do not have to keep minutes, and don't have to do any public notes to do that. Ad hoc committees are truly ad hoc. The Brown Act says that if the city council takes action to create a committee, that committee is automatically a standing committee, and that standing committee is going to be subject to the agenda requirements, the minute requirements, and the reporting. So that may be something that you want to consider as you debate this.
So what I'd like to do is, let's just pull this item, and we will study it further in staff mode, and let's pull the item. If there's, I think that's kind of what we're sensing here. So let's pull the item off the calendar, and we will then, if there's no objections or further comments, let's proceed on to our staff report. That was the ultimate item that was pulled. So we thank our council members for the consent calendar. All right, moving on to item number 20. Let's go into our staff reports.
Did Ms. Ibarra get number 14?
I had some questions.
She pulled that.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, my apologies. Councilmember Ibarra. Item number 14.
Actually, I had several questions also. Maybe I can email it to staff. On item 10, my question was on the sales tax that they were quoting us on. It says 8%. I believe it's 8.25 for our city. Item 14, my quick question is where along Little Mountain Drive will the project take place?
Chief Mejia
Just
is
real
here,
quick.
he can answer that.
Yeah.
I believe they provided you a map in there. So just referring to the map. Also remember that these are aggressive plans in burning, so we're always subject to AQMD approval prior to on every day. So we're looking to burn roughly around 300 acres total, which would help alleviate some of the fire problem in the area. But if AQMD does not allow us to burn, we're only allowed to burn 10 acres a day. So we could burn as little as 10% of this.
Okay, the reason I asked, the map we have shows certain areas, and this one specifically saying it's on Little Mountain Drive. That's where the discrepancy is on.
So if you look at, are you talking about Wednesday? On May 29th, where it talks about by Shannon Hills by both north and south of Little Mountain Drive. Oh, you don't have the notes. Well, I'm sorry, yes. So on Tuesday, they're looking at burning on, I guess that would be west of the 215, and then on Wednesday, they're looking at burning on both sides of Little Mountain Drive and impacting that area.
Okay, is it north or south of Miramonte? Because it does go to the second ward also.
It says it takes us all the way between Mountain Drive and Ridgeline Drive.
Okay, that was all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
All right, members cast their vote, please.
On item 14, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Nichol, the second by Mr. Mulvihill, and the item passes 5-0.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to staff reports. Item number 20, City County Conference update from Council Members Ibarra, Charette, and Nichol, and we will start with Councilmember Ibarra.
Okay, City County Conference. It was $200 for us to attend each. My hotel expense came out to a little over $148, which got reimbursed to me. This is just for the taxpayers to know. It was a very interesting meeting. We had a lot of elected officials from the city and the county giving us updates on any legislative efforts that they're trying to be a voice for all of us. So we had, I'm trying to remember their names, hold on. And by the way, we were told not to take pictures or that we were going to get a lot of PowerPoints, and we didn't get those PowerPoints. I think they would have been beneficial for everybody to see them. But I went, so SBCTA and SBCOG, they all work together. They represent all of our cities and any concerns that we have, whether it's housing needs, whether it's the homelessness, whether it's logistics or Census 2020 coming up. They were our voice when they go up to the state level and to the federal level. I went to session 1B, Generation Go. We had Garner Holt as one of the presenters, and our superintendent of San Marino City School District, Dale Marsden, as well as one of the students that went through this program. And I think I asked the question, how can we also pair up with the city so that we can get our college students or even our high school students interested in being involved with government jobs? So that's something that we're going to start working on. So that was session 1B. I also attended session 2B. It's called How Logistics is Shaping the Inland Empire. We had a speaker, one of our developers. I was fascinated. There was he gave a different kind of a plan of logistics, the future of logistics, where the back of the building would be the loading docks, The middle would be the fulfillment area, and then the front will have retail, housing, and a little storefront also. That's the retail part. Trying to decrease the traveling to and from. So I thought that was a very interesting new plan that they're promoting. They also talked about some of the warehouses and some of the trucks that we have out there are energy efficient. They don't extract fuel or fumes into the ozone layer, so that's something that we definitely need to keep pursuing. And I attended session 3A for Census 2020. We are trying to reach out to the hard to count population. These are people that don't usually get counted during the census. The numbers that we end up counting will determine how much money our cities will get when it comes to aid.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Charette.
I also attended. This is something I've attended 3 or 4 years, I believe. It's a very good, about a day and a half conference. As was stated, there are a number of sessions that we're able to attend. But the real thing that comes out of it really is the networking and the time to spend with your colleagues and with other local electeds from the surrounding cities and the county. So I attended sessions each day. One was titled Demographics and the Future of the Inland Empire. I also sat in on the How Logistics is Shaping the Inland Empire. The session in the afternoon on Friday or Thursday was the second coming of the car, quite an interesting discussion about the autonomous vehicles and what we might be seeing in the future. A lot to be learned and a lot still to come on that. Then on the closing day, which is actually Friday morning, just another session called Authentically Engaging Your Local Community. Is my time up? I didn't know we were trying to stay to 3 minutes on this stuff. That's okay.
Okay. All right.
It's a good conference. It's well attended and one that I think we should all be attending.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Nichol.
Yeah, well, I just echo my colleagues' statements. I know Sandra, my colleagues, Council Member Ibarra, raised some really good questions when we were talking about program related to the education of the youth in our community, a program called Gen Go. It was really inspiring to see some of the youth from our school district getting that work experience and discovering their calling in life. And I know Councilmember Ibarra raised the very good question, well, how can we help? How can we as local officials be part of helping bring this type of program to reality? So, and I think it is. It's really an opportunity to fellowship with our colleagues, with other elected officials throughout the county. And I know Councilmember Charette and I had some very good discussions after the formal sessions were over. It's just a really good opportunity to get to know each other as people, share some ideas. The last day of the conference, we had a very, very good presentation on the economic outlook for our region. And the bottom line was we need more housing. We really do. And this is an issue that is something we really need to be laser focused on, not just as a city, but as a region. Housing affordability is very much a concern for many of our families. They're paying a major component of their income for housing compared to other parts of the country. And we need to be responsive to that and give people the promise of home ownership and do our part to make sure that we're stimulating that construction of new housing and opportunity for our residents. So anyways, great conference. Good information, and highly recommend those colleagues that haven't attended yet do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Our next item, item number 21, 2019 International Security Conference and Expo, an update provided by Councilman Nichol.
Yeah, this is another conference that I try to attend every year. I actually get a complimentary ticket to this, so I don't pay for it. But it takes place at the Sands Conference Center in Las Vegas, and this is the premier conference in the Western United States on the security, specifically the surveillance industry. Big focus on surveillance camera technology. I know we're having a lot of discussion now, good discussion, about how we really invest in law enforcement. Safety is a major concern for our residents, and we need to look at all available resources and tools and really understand from policy, as policymakers, what those technologies are, and understand how we can best potentially invest in some of those technologies, be they cameras, be they there are new vehicles out on the market, drone technology, how we can really improve the quality and efficiency and effectiveness of our law enforcement capabilities. I also brought along our new Public Safety Human Relations Commissioner for the 5th Ward, and was really a good opportunity for us to look at the work that he will be doing as a commissioner, and think about how we can work together with our police department, with our law enforcement professionals, and with our colleagues here to really understand how best we can leverage, I think, some really exciting technologies that, as we're seeing, the costs are coming down, whether it's facial recognition, license plate recognition. We saw one company, manufacturers in South Korea, a replacement for the street lights that integrates cameras, LED, and actually the cost savings that comes from converting to that LED actually pays for the cost of the camera too. So in theory, you could have a network of cameras through your street light network, and just some really innovative ideas in terms of how, again, we integrate these technologies that we're seeing used in other parts of the world. There's a lot of other parts of the world that have, there's cities you go into, and they do a very good job now of monitoring activity and really deterring that crime. So anyway,
Thank
great
you.
conference.
Very
Appreciate
good.
it.
Thank you, Councilman Nichols.
Just have a question. Now, Councilman Nichols, your background, you were in the Cal State National Security Studies program. Then this is kind of a carryover of those kinds of issues.
Well, it actually predates that. I used to work security for Riverside Metrolink Station. So
again, this is part of your expertise.
But yeah, it's sort of something I've been involved in for quite some time, and it's always interesting to go to this conference because you're seeing the evolution of these technologies that cost many tens of thousands of dollars. When I first started going to these conferences, now cost hundreds of dollars. So the costs have really come down. But anyway, great conference. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman. Our next item is item number 22, authorize the RFQ for Carousel Mall property. The recommendation is to direct the city manager to proceed with a request for a qualification soliciting interest in the development of the Carousel Mall as outlined in our staff report. I want to express my deep appreciation for our city staff. This is a very monumental and important step for our city to begin the process to undergo that. It's a great undertaking, and we understand that. The Carousel Mall since the early 1970s has been kind of the gemstone here in our central corridor, our central downtown. We are very excited as a city council to begin the process. And notice that I use the word and emphasize begin the process. This is a process, and this is the inception. We're excited about the potential of attracting international development, and this is a great opportunity to begin that process. I'll reserve comment. I want to kind of turn over to our city manager and allow staff to present the staff report and the city manager.
As you said, Mayor, we've been dealing with this property for many, many years, but the city obtained ownership of it through the former redevelopment agency. So it's a 44-acre site. It is the catalyst for growth downtown, and we are looking to be authorized to issue an RFQ, which we would bring back to you. Mike Huntley has a presentation he'd like to give you.
So I think basically what the mayor said and what the city manager said also, that's covered most of what I was going to say, quite frankly. But with that said, so this is a good opportunity for the city to move forward with this asset. Really, this is in the historic heart of downtown San Bernardino. I think it's an important catalyst for growth in the city's downtown area. And as we talked about, the city wants to put out an RFQ, hence we're coming in front of the city council asking for your direction to move forward. What we're envisioning for that would be is to go out and actually cast the net wide. So we identify not only, local, but regional and actually national and maybe even international developers who actually have the development background and experience, have the design professionals who have the experience to be able to work with the city and actually design a project that actually would fit our downtown, and also have the financial capacity to be able to work through a project of this magnitude also. What we're anticipating on doing is actually over the next 30 days preparing the RFQ. That'll be an internal process between the city attorney's office, the city manager's office, and my staff. We'll put that together, and then we'll put the RFQ out. We're looking for about a 45-day period. And then subsequent to that, we'll evaluate those. We're still working through some of the criteria. I think probably we want to bring the top 3 entities back before the council, and then we'll provide additional guidance to you in regards to what those next steps may be. But I think this is a great start. Some of us will be at the ICSC conference in Las Vegas here this coming weekend, as well as the first couple days of next week. We plan on getting out on the floor. This is actually not only a national, but it's an international conference where you bring a large variety of investors, the banking industry, commercial real estate, investors, cities, and so on, where we're all looking for great opportunities. And we've put together a packet helping solicit interest in the 43-acre site known as the Carousel Mall. We're going to walk the conference, get a lot of additional names, and look for additional leads that we'll be able to put a really solid list of individuals together. And then we'll come back with that and start working on that draft RFQ. And it's really up to council whether or not you want us to come back one more time before we put it on the street, or if you want us to just go ahead and move forward. The last thing I do want to mention is that downtown San Bernardino is also the heart of county government also. We do want to make sure we do engage the county. About a month ago, I did engage some of the county employees at my level, looking to them to say, what is it you want to see for downtown, and what assets do you have that we may want to work together with? So I know that they also reached out to the mayor's office also, and they definitely want to be involved with the process. So over the next 30 days, we want to engage the county, get their feedback, and include them in this process as well. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Huntley. I want to, this is a perfect opportunity for our city council, and at the very beginning, we're just grateful for the interest from our city council, and I want to applaud all of our council members for your action and your focus on getting this out. This is, again, a beginning process, and so we can begin the steps forward, and I'm very, very grateful. I'm thankful for you guys. Thank you for believing in our staff to move this process forward. This is just the authority to direction to our city manager, and she'll work with our staff. This is not an approval of an RFQ tonight. This is just allowing our city staff to begin the good work and deliberate and begin that process. So, Councilman Nickel.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you said about the county in particular, because I think I think that second component of your recommendation, I think, is appropriate. I think we want to begin moving forward, and I think we can do that tonight. But I think we do need to make sure that we are engaging with the county. I would recommend perhaps an actual letter from our city manager, jointly from our mayor and city manager, to the CEO and chair of the County Board of Supervisors, engaging them in perhaps a 30-day process to begin really discussing our vision for the Carousel Mall, to really help staff understand how to put together an RFQ that really encapsulates the understanding that we collectively have as both a council and partnership with the county, to make sure that we do really capture the most qualified firms to then come on board and then potentially develop a much more in-depth proposal for us. So I would just encourage, I don't think it needs to be in the form of a motion necessarily, but there be some kind of a formal letter perhaps drafted just to show that commitment on our part that this is really staff, the policymakers, the council, the mayor coming together and really looking to engage the county in a process now to begin moving forward in a timely fashion. We don't need this to drag on for months and years. We do need to send a statement now that we're ready to move forward, that we're coming together as a community, that we're coming together as a county, we're coming together as a region to create a true world-class city, a downtown that not only the residents of San Bernardino can be proud of, but the people of the Inland Empire can be very proud of. And that really needs to be the focus moving forward. So with that, I'll support, or do we have a motion on the floor?
Go for it.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we
Very good.
approve the recommendation.
Councilman Mulvihill.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to the enthusiasm that I'm hearing. Last year at the Skaggs General Assembly, I was on a panel that was entitled Downtown Economic Development, and I presented our 43 acres and tied it in with the fact that it's within a quarter mile of the transit center. And so we've got a natural TOD there. And the response I got was that, why hasn't it already been done? You know, why have you got this? And I went back to the fact that we lost a lot of staff during the bankruptcy, and they said, well, so what? You know, this is something that, you know, they were just, again, and still today when I mentioned it to regional professionals, they say this is a sure thing. We need to be careful, and, you know, as we proceed forward, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people who are of marginal ability to carry this out. I think we really need to be, again, take care with this, because it's not just you know, something that's going to take place in 5 years, but over the course of the next, you know, couple of decades. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of potential investment and a renewal of the downtown. And again, keeping the county in mind, because they're a major partner in this. In fact, going back to where we had in the 2005, the county was interested in really having a campus in our downtown renewal plan, which kind of fell out because we had the recession taking place. So I'm really enthusiastic, and I'll, you know, vote in favor of moving ahead with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Charette.
Yeah, my comments are very similar. I've talked to some developers on this, and they look at it a little differently, and that we should maybe be taking a little different approach. And we're talking about the 43 acres of the mall. Well, I'm looking at a much larger footprint. I'm looking at, as we've got the transit center, we've got Second Lake, which should be tied into the downtown, in my view. We've got the old Sun Company building, the American University that is now vacant and should be a part of this plan. City Hall, we need to be deciding what we're going to do with City Hall. We've got the hotel that's an issue. And I've been informed by some people that know more about this type of thing than I do, that going out for just an RFQ is probably, we're maybe a little ahead of ourselves. If that's what the council supports tonight, I can support the idea of an RFQ, but we've been here now for 10 years. We've been through two different organizations. Before I was elected 10 years ago, they were having the things downtown called charrettes, not the same spelling as my name, but called charrettes, and it involved the community. We spent a lot of time and a lot of effort on all of that, and really for nothing. We ended up doing like we've done so many times over the years, getting reports and getting plans and getting drawings and getting renderings, and they're collecting dust somewhere, probably in City Hall or somewhere. And so I'm very enthusiastic and excited about the downtown, and I support, we need a downtown desperately. It probably came, the reason, one of the things that failed, the Carousel Mall failed, was because we had two malls in this town. and we should have only had one. We ended up with two, and they competed with each other, and that was a problem. But I do see this as an opportunity. And again, I'll support the idea of an RFQ, and this will be still going on long after I'm gone, I'm sure, because it is a couple of decades long at least. But we need somebody that's, I think we need to be hiring somebody that can come in and help us put together a marketing plan for what we really are envisioning as our downtown, and go to the RFQ, go out to the community worldwide if need be, to find somebody that can really do exactly what we want done, rather than just have them come in and tell us what they can do. So that's my comment. I'll vote yes on this tonight, but I do think we maybe could look at it a little different process, a little different sequence in the way we go forward.
Very good. All right, Councilmember Ibarra.
Just real quick, I know you had mentioned it briefly, but will my colleagues be okay if we wait until after ICSC conference and see what, who we can pitch out there, and also provide Mr. Huntley with that? No? Just an idea.
Okay, well, this is simply an authorization to begin the process. When we're at ICSC, Mr. Huntley, can we help us here? When we're there at ICSC, and by the way, myself, the Vice Mayor Pro Tem Richard's going, Councilmember Barr will be joining me, and I told you I'm bringing my walking shoes. I am going to be working alongside of you with your help and your assistance to get business cards. And I don't think you've seen me work here yet, Mr. Huntley, but I love to walk. And I'm going to be walking, and we're going to be knocking on all those doors. She brings up a very good point. Can you help us balance that? Because tonight we're just asking for authorization to begin the process. That's it. And we will have probably a lot of contacts, probably a lot of business cards, probably a lot of information in our satchels coming back to home base. Is there a need to put a pause on this tonight?
No.
Can we proceed forward and still complement what she's telling us, that when we work at ICSC, bringing that information back?
ICSC is only one component of reaching out and getting names, so to say, of development firms. I've already started to put that list together. So this is another opportunity for us to get out there and meet other national and international companies who might be interested. So, I really don't think there's any need to hold off. I think we can proceed, or council would give us direction to move forward. And then ICSC is only one component where we'll start collecting, development entities' names. But like I said, I've already started to pull those together. There's other resources out there for us to reach to look at other communities, not only in the state of California, but outside. The city manager pointed out one that was, forget the name of the city in Colorado, but they did
Westminster.
something. Yeah,
I'll be visiting it tomorrow and Friday.
Okay, so that's another opportunity to find out who the developer was. So, kind of the sky's the limit with this. So I think if council provides a direction, we can start working on that draft. And then we'll start collecting names and putting together, like I said, really our intent is to cast the net wide and identify as many development entities. So at the end of the day, we hopefully will have a good list of companies we can present to council.
Very good. Councilmember Mulvihill.
Mr. Huntley, what do you think about Councilman Charette's idea of hiring a firm to help us market it when we get to that point?
Well,
something professional.
I think Councilman Charette's idea is great, and I think it's one of the things actually that came out of the plan of adjustments. Before I came on board, I started to go through that document. That's one of the things that it does say.
Mm-hmm.
We should be looking at the economic side of the house also, and the plan of adjustment does encourage us to do such. So the real question is do we start that process now? Do we do that as part of the development of the Carousel Mall site? What I might suggest we do is I think we should start engaging economists or people who can help us start to identify some of our assets that we should be marketing, but I think we should also build off of that. There's another direction the council gave to us was to move forward with the update of the general plan.
Exactly.
And I think as part of the update to the general plan, we should have someone on board who's evaluating the land use patterns within the city and being able to identify the types of growth that will come out of the update to the general plan. And then that strategy should come out of the update to the general plan. That's the land use element and the economic development element. So.
Okay, and the other question I had, I'm assuming that we cleared that issue we had with El Corte English about the reciprocal parking agreement?
It's still in place until 2020. So,
Okay.
yeah, so as part of that agreement, they have an offer to purchase the property, so we would have to work with them at that time. But that agreement
But
is
after
still in place.
2020, it's over with, finished.
Well, they have an opportunity to purchase that property. So that's something we would have to work out.
Okay. Well, that's something to keep in mind then.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Very good, council. There's a motion and a second, and if members would please cast their vote.
On item 22, the motion was made by Mr. Nichol, the second by Mr. Mulvihill, and the item passes 5-0.
Okay, very good. Moving on to item number 23, audited financial statements and single audit for fiscal year 2017 and 18. Ms. City Manager.
Mayor and council members, we are squeezing every last minute out of our interim finance director's time. And not only has she been working on next year's budget, but she's also been putting this report together with our auditors that she would like to present to you for the 17-18 annual audited financial report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. I also have with me here today Ken Poon. He's one of the managing partners with our independent audit firm, the Poon Group. I'm going to be providing a brief overview of the financial statements and the audit results, and Ken's here to also interject and add additional information if needed, and then when we're done, if you have any questions, we can go into that. There is a lot of information here, so this is kind of a brief overview, but I want to extend to all of you, if you're bored and you want to hear about all things finance, feel free to contact us and we can go over anything in more detail if you need us to do that. So the statements that you have in front of you, the audited financial statements, are for fiscal year 2017-18, so the year that ended June 30th, 2018. And the audit, the purpose of the audit is for the auditors to render opinion that the financial position represented in the reports is fairly stated in material respects. The annual financial statement has 3 sections. The basic financial statements, the required supplementary information, and then the independent auditor's report. And then we'll also briefly touch on the 2017-18 single audit, which is an audit that's required for recipients of over $750,000 in federal funds, grant funds. So within the first item within the basic financial statements, there's 3 sections to the basic financial statements: government-wide financial statements, fund financial statements, and then the notes to the financial statements. So we're going to talk briefly just about those things to kind of walk you through when you're reading the report. So the government-wide financial statements show more of a long-term view, and those are things that you don't necessarily see in the budget. It's looking at all our assets, including our infrastructure. We assign a value to that. All long-term debt and liabilities, the CalPERS net pension liabilities in there, so the numbers look really big. And all funds are combined into 2 categories, either governmental activities or business-type activities. One thing to point out to all of you here is that the water department is included in our financial statements, and they're the bulk of the business type activities. They're just considered another department of the city for purposes of the financial statements. So key points, the government-wide financial statements talk about net position, which is basically the difference between all our assets and our liabilities. in 2017-18, the net position of our governmental activities decreased by 17 million to 124 million. There are a few factors contributing to this, and if you have any additional things, or I'm going off step, okay. One of the big things was the value of properties held for resale. We reduced that by 8.1 million. The reason we did that, we actually hired a firm to value what our property held for resale is to get a more accurate value of it. It hadn't been done in a long time, and it was a previous audit finding, which we've cleared up. So that was one of the reasons. The other big thing is that in the government-wide financials, our CalPERS net pension liability is in that number. So the net pension liability is basically the difference between our assets that we have in the plan, what is actuarially determined that we owe, and then the difference. That's our net pension liability. You can see on the PowerPoint, it's in the staff report, that our net pension liability went up by $48 million. One of the big reasons for that is CalPERS changed their methodology, the discount rate, which is, the discount rate is basically what they think they're going to earn on investments, and they've lowered it. So when they lower that rate, that means that our payment goes up. They've done this because if you remember, during the Great Recession and the housing crash and all of that, they had a very high assumed rate of return that didn't pan out, and then cities were kind of left with having to catch up with that. So now they're trying to be more conservative. Right. I think for this period it was 7.15%.
Actually, the long-term expected rate of return is valued at 7%, plus the 0.15 is actually the administrative cost associated with administrating the plan itself. So when they value it, it's at 7.15, dropped by about like 0.5%. But that's still a pretty high rate of return. In my opinion, yes. In my opinion, yes. So that's why in your financial statement, there is a sensitivity analysis within the note disclosure. If the discount rate dropped by 1%, your total liability can go to, as I believe it's going all the way up to $600 million. So that will be another $170 million of liabilities out there. So, but based on the industry standard, we are reported consistently throughout the state. That's why we have reported on your face of your financial statement as of June 30, 2018, $423 million. Yeah. But yes, in my opinion, the discount rate is still relatively high. Mm-hmm.
And Ken was sharing with me, and I've read some things on this too, that it looks like it will go down further. It's not looking good, the discount rate. Yeah. So we'll know more about that as soon as PERS gives us information, we'll share it with you. Yes, sir.
I guess I'd ask this question at the agenda briefing. What exactly, how much are we paying each year for CalPERS? What's our
I
annual?
actually have a little spreadsheet here with that. Let me just
No problem.
find it.
Let me tell you this. For the miscellaneous plan, for the year end June 30, 2018, you were paying about close to $12 million. For the safety plan, it's about like $16.5 million. And then for the success agency plan, it's close to $350,000. So when we add it all up, it was about 17,
28 million, 29 million.
$28 million.
28 million.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if we're getting an accurate picture of pension costs, we're still paying on the pension obligation bonds too.
Yeah. Now, does that, are we paying all that, or is part of that going into the amount that we're going to be owing? Are we actually paying in our budget $28 million? Is that budgeted?
Yes.
Yes, that is the actual employer contribution during the fiscal year end June 30, 2018.
Okay, thank you.
So then the next section of the basic financial statements are the fund financial statements. So the previous section we talked about was a long-term view. This is more of a short-term view. So the long-term view is if you were looking at like your net worth, your house, your retirement savings, those kinds of things, what you owe on your house or the value of your house if it was paid off. This is more what you're used to, the short-term view. When we do the budget, the needs for the short term. And those are categorized by governmental funds, proprietary, which are business-like funds, and fiduciary, like the successor agency. So we list here the governmental funds, the general funds, special revenue, federal and state grants, and low mod housing. This chart shows just the changes in fund balance, and you can see the general fund balance as of June 30th, 2018. So it doesn't take into account all the news that I gave you at mid-year. This is before all that happened. The change was an increase of about 8.4 million. And for all the governmental funds overall, it was about a 15.6.
I would like to also add a comment about the general fund. During the year, there's a long-term debt proceed of about like $4.4 million, and that is a one-time thing. That's caused a tremendous amount of increase in your fund balance. Yeah.
In our overall fund balance.
Overall fund balance. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Primarily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this does include water too. Water's in here also, the water department. They're part of our miscellaneous plan.
It's still a huge number that comes right straight out of the general fund.
Yes.
That cannot go towards any services to others.
Correct. And when we start bringing you information on the budget, we do have the option to prepay the unfunded liability. That payment of 20 million or so, whatever the amount was. We save some money by doing that instead of paying it monthly, so we will do that. So it's a big outflow at first, but it saves us like $700,000 to do that. Did you have a question, Councilmember Barr? Oh, okay. Thought you had some scintillating question. So then the next slide shows general fund balance by category. Again, this is ending June 30th, 2018, so this was before you adopted your reserve policy. So that's why that doesn't show up in the financial statements. Your reserve policy was adopted in November. But the unassigned fund balance is about 38.9 million, which when I presented the mid-year report to you, that was our beginning fund balance. Non-spendable is basically the property held for resale. Then the third part to the basic financial statements are the notes to the financial statements. And notes sounds kind of innocuous, but that's really where all the really meaty detail is on our long-term investments, accounting policies, GASB requirements, pension obligations, the successor agency, capital assets.
Yeah, those are very, very important footnote because not only knowing about the numbers, but there are also contingent liabilities that we disclose in the financial statement, including some potential lawsuit. There's still certain uncertainty out there that we disclose, so the note disclosure is a very important part of the financial statement.
And I'm sorry, this slide got a little off center, but the second section to the annual financial report is the required supplementary information. That's where you can find budget to actual budgetary information on special revenue funds, changes in net pension obligations, schedule of pension contributions. So it's considered required supplementary info. It's not a part of the basic financial statements. Then the third section of the report is the independent auditor's report. And I'll talk briefly about it, and then I'll let Ken elaborate on that. But there's 11 opinion areas. Of that, 7 were unmodified or clean. 4 areas were considered qualified, meaning they have issues. Doesn't mean that what the city had was wrong. It means that what we have, they weren't able to render an opinion. It's one issue that filters down to the 4 areas. So it's not 4 different issues, but it's one issue that touches on 4 areas. And that is our ability to accurately show our loan receivable balances, primarily in the low mod housing fund, the home fund, I think CDBG. There's a lot of loans that were done related to first-time home buyers or home improvements. There's some developer loans there, and the city's still working. This is a carryover issue. We're still working on trying to come up with a way to get a grip on that and show what maybe is not collectible, get a better handle on that. And I'll let Ken talk about that a little more.
I can tell this year the city has worked significantly hard enough to correct a lot of things in the past, because as you recall in the last year, we actually have like a couple of things that we qualified the financial statement, which include compensated absences balance, property held for resale value, and notes receivable. So this year, the city has, because of the exit of bankruptcy, the compensated absences balance has automatically resolved, and then also the city did hire a outside third party to evaluate your and also do an inventory of your property held for resale. So that's why we are able to say that the balance as of your June 30, 2018 on those areas is being resolved, and we are comfortable to issue saying that those areas are fine. But as a result, the city, because of short staffing, the notes receivable is still an outstanding item that needs to be corrected.
Then the second document that you have is the single audit, which the single audit is required by federal law. We receive a lot of federal funds. And the purpose of the single audit is to address city internal controls, both financial and otherwise, and then compliance with grant requirements, laws, regulations, that kind of thing. So the single audit also issues findings on internal controls. In 2017, there was one finding related to the valuation of property held for resale. We took care of that. But now there's one new finding, which I touched upon during mid-year, and that's retention of qualified finance department personnel. Unfortunately, me being up here is a symbol of that. During the audit, we lost our finance director, we lost our accounting manager, we lost our principal accountant. Prior to that, our payroll supervisor, which caused a lot of delays and issues in trying to get this audit to you, but we're actively working on that. We're in the recruitment stage for accounting manager. We just promoted someone to deputy director. We have a payroll supervisor, so we are dealing with these things, but it continues to be a problem for the city. Then the carryover findings were related to what we talked about, the notes receivable, the internal service fund rates. The issue with that is that those are full accrual type funds where we should, if we're going to really operate an internal service fund, we should be budgeting to cover the long-term obligations, not just on a cash basis. This is what we spent, this is what we're taking in. We should be covering workers' comp and liability. We should have a balance out there to deal with long-term litigation. In the fleet fund, we should have, and the other funds where there's staff, we should be funding it so that the PERS obligation is fully funded. Those kind of things, and the city just hasn't had the money to do that. And it's a carryover finding that was on here before. And a lack of a updated accounting manual. We're still operating on something from when I was here 10 years ago. So we need to update that. And then just on a more general citywide level, lack of IT central governance and disaster recovery continuity plan. We don't really have a plan if, something terrible happened, an earthquake, how would we continue with business as a city overall, pay vendors, pay people, and then a strategy for central governance of IT. And I'm going to let Ken kind of elaborate on the findings a little bit more.
Yeah, because one of the things that I can tell, with the technology, we are in the technology world. in the technology century now. So one of the things that we also, because one thing very important that you need to have the IT governance and disaster recovery plan is also to protect your information here. It's not only about the cybersecurity, it's all the information security that you hold at the city. So that's why our firm did a lot of work, like not necessary now, because now you still have a kind of like antiquated old system, accounting system, but once you keep it up to date, we also need to look at the stability of your system itself, the vulnerability of your network itself, to make sure that the city do have a plan to protect all the information that you have. Because the California actually did pass like laws about the Consumer Privacy Act, Protection Privacy Act. So those are actually as stringent as what the GDPR out in Europe, and actually it's a lot more. I can tell the liability out there if there's any breach without showing any proof, anyone can file a claim. From the city will be fined between $100 to $750 per breach. So that's why if there's a lot of people coming in and say, oh, we got hacked or any breach of data and impacting the credit, the city have a whole lot of liabilities on that. So that's why it's very important that you do have that governance in place and then also working on your disaster recovery plan. Yeah.
And then finally, the single audit deals with compliance, program compliance with federal laws, regulations, contracts. And in that regard, the testing that the auditors did, they didn't find any issues related to grant compliance.
Which is a very significant improvement, because I can tell, like this, in the past we do have a whole lot of issue dealing with this, the housing, the CDBG issues, and this year we are happy that we are very comfortable. The city did comply with all the compliance requirements that we test, and we are issuing a modified opinion on that. Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you. So that concludes our presentation.
Thank you.
I want to take a moment to thank Ken Poon and his team. They were very helpful getting us through this process, and also the finance team getting us to this point and making sure we got everything submitted timely.
Rita, we thank you, and thank you, Mr. Poon, for your help. Councilman Nickel.
Yeah, just one question. I know stability in the finance department has been a perennial issue for us, certainly since I've been on the council. How do we fix that?
As Rita just stated, we've filled several key positions, and we are in discussions with our final candidate for the finance director to relieve Rita. We have our deputy position filled now, we have our payroll position filled now, and we are doing interviews in the accounting position.
Are there certain functions within the finance department that can be, in essence, contracted, or use a firm that does payroll, that does the accounting, so we aren't running into these issues of staff continuity? I mean,
actually, we do have quite a few contracts right now that we've approved recently.
Okay, I'm just getting concerned because I keep hearing this, and it does concern me, because we can't afford to keep fumbling in terms of our finances. We have to make sure that, we have an obligation to make sure, we're running a tight ship here.
We agree. Staff retention is very important.
So, I don't foresee that staff retention is going to be something we can stabilize anytime soon. We're in a very volatile fiscal situation, and so attracting people that are willing to stay long-term, to me, I think is going to be a challenge for us. So how do we mitigate that, and what options might be available to us in terms of certain key finance positions to make sure that we aren't subjecting ourselves too much to that, that fact that it's just, we're in an unstable environment right now in terms of staff. So how do we fix that?
All right.
Well, I think just the fact that we're a lot of years out of the BK now, it was very crazy times in the finance department when the BK hit, and a lot of revolving door consultants coming in, kind of suspension of normal operating policies. And now I think we're getting past that, and we've been caught up on our audits. We're doing budgeting now in a more timely manner. So I think that will make us more attractive to people when they're looking at the city. I think part of the problem is just during that time period, people were afraid to come here. Because there was a lot of stability in the finance department prior to the bankruptcy. And then from the BK on till this year, it's been a revolving door. But I feel that we're starting to get a little bit more stability back. We've rearranged things a little bit. We do use contractors to fill in when we can't get people. But ideally, we would want to build a team.
Okay, very good. No, it's a receive and file, so we appreciate you, we appreciate our staff, and we thank you. One question I do have is, in concert and keeping with our bankruptcy pendency adjustment plan, how does this, are there any notations within the report that would reflect that we are satisfying and keeping that document up to date and are working, or is that more of a budget workshop item that we discuss as a council? So my question is there any documentation in our audit report that reflects that? Are we required to? And if not, how do we balance that so that we keep this document a living document and we can live within our means as per the adjustment plan?
Well, we're required to do this audit every year. We did it in a timely manner this year, right? By the, what was the date?
March 31st.
March 31st.
Yeah, so we've gotten caught back up in our audits. If you recall, we were behind for several years, and our former finance director got us caught up, and we are continue to be caught up.
Great. So where in the document is there a mention of the adjustment or plan of adjustment for a bankruptcy?
There's a note about the bankruptcy, but I think whether we're complying with the pendency plan and the plan of adjustment, those things, I don't think that is discussed in the note. That's more of a budget management type thing,
So it's
not
an
a financial
internal
reporting.
document that the
Yes.
city manager and us
Correct.
should be living within, so.
Yes.
And discussing during budget, correct.
Well, I want to encourage that, that we continue that and make sure that, because we paid millions of dollars to various consultants and attorneys and all sorts of things. In the heyday of bankruptcy, we, as a council, decided to have that document prepared, and it went from a 20-year to a 15 to a 10, and I think it's a 10 now, 10-year plan. So I want to make sure that we discuss it, and so Ms. City Manager, if you do your best, please, to provide updates to the council and certainly at the budget workshop. Okay, very good. Are there any final items here? All right, we're moving on to item number 24. We thank you, staff.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing on item number 24. This is the last item. We have a public speaker, Ms. Rowe. Ms. Rowe, if you'd raise your right hand.
Okay, so this is my favorite topic here to talk about is the CDBG funds. And I first want to say that I appreciated the before and after pictures of the new parks. That's very nice to finally see the CDBG funds being used properly. But I do have one major concern here, and it is that we spend $700, and I believe it was $6,000 a year to repay the Section 108 loan for Arden and Guthrie Weed Field. Like, we don't even cut the weeds and make it look like we could sell it. But yet we spend $706,000 a year. Now, $706,000 additional a year could go ahead and take care of the park that little girl was complaining about. Okay? Earlier, you know, the Rudy Hernandez Park. $706,000 a year could then take another $140,000 from that and keep the libraries open. Now, that should be an asset to the city. Like, we should be able to sell it and recoup our money instead of put out year after year after year after year on something that's not making us any money. And it says it's going to create all these jobs. Do you know I used to live down the street there in high school? And it's never created a job over there. It's always created a problem. And even the projects weren't as bad as the weeds over there. So we need to think about really what's going on with that so that we could reallocate and repurpose those funds. And then there is $730,000 to assist 10 businesses, which I figured that is about $73,000 a business. And what businesses are getting that? And maybe if they were only getting $10,000 or $20,000, you know, you could help a whole lot of businesses. And maybe you could just put security in front of businesses so they didn't get ripped off, and maybe that would cost a little less, and then we'd have extra boots on the street. And that was number 3 on their goal summary, and it's on page 931. And then, you know, I have this picture that I took on my cell phone, and it's up at my house, and it's at the I think it's Tom Minor Park, but it says that they're doing $839,000 worth of splash pad improvements. Now, I hope that wasn't in the Tom Minor Park, because my house was built in 2006, I believe. All that park was brand new. The fact that they're ripping that up and they're actually spending that money on my side of town is pretty bad. I would think that money should have gone elsewhere, because the toys worked. I've been taking my kids there. I mean, my kids they're a little crazy. So when they were little, they were crazy too. So I've been taking them there for many years, and nothing was ever broken. So when I see that money being spent, I just like to know, where did it all go and what splash pads? Because I've yet to see that broken down anywhere. And that was 2017-18 or 18-19, not 2020. But it's still money, and we still should know. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any additional public wish to speak? Okay, we'll go ahead and move to the staff presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Maria Gallegos, Administrative Analyst with the Housing Division of the Community and Economic Development Department. I will be presenting a short PowerPoint on the draft HUD Fiscal Year 2019-20 Annual Action Plan. The draft 2019-20 Annual Action Plan implements the 5th year goals and priorities contained in the city's 5-year consolidated plan. The plan is both a planning document and an application that funding that must be submitted to HUD by June 14th, 2019. Once the plan is approved, the city executes a formal agreement with HUD. Community and Economic Development implements and manages the grant funds and related activities. The 3 federal grants received by the city are known as formula grants and are allocated based on population, economic conditions, age, and overcrowding of the housing stock. The city's allocation for 2019-20 is $3.36 million for CDBG, ESG, and home. In 2019-2020, the city will once again receive a direct home allocation from HUD. In addition to the 2019-20 allocation, it is recommended that prior year unspent funds and current year program income be used for 19-20 activities. And that would be a total of available $501,872. You will note in the row titled Public Facilities Project Total that $2.2 million is dedicated to capital improvement projects. The following pictures demonstrate the before and after playground equipment replacement that was completed during this current fiscal year, 2018-19. And as you can see here, we have the Delman Heights Park before picture and the after playground equipment replacement, which they did a fabulous job. The La Plaza Park and the after picture of La Plaza Park equipment. The Jack Riley Park, and there's the after picture as well. And that concludes my presentation, and we are available to answer any questions that you may have this evening. Thank you.
Very good. Was the Colony Park part of the improvements? I don't know if Jim might want to Tickmeyer.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, Colony Park was.
It was just not in the picture.
It just wasn't in the picture. There was
Okay.
actually 6 parks that were done.
Step in the microphone, please.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I can't hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, Colony Park was part of last year's 18-19 project list, and
This is as of July 1st of this year, this fiscal year. Is that right?
yeah, the Colony Park was that. So the CDBG funds that went to the playground replacement, those projects are completed. That was in the 18-19 budget. So what's proposed now is 5 more parks for the 19-20 fiscal year.
And the ones pictured in the slideshow are as of this fiscal year?
Yes.
Very good work. I mean, that's a quick turnaround. All right, there's been a request, if we can, I mean, we could go into questions. We've been requested to move this item to continuance. And so we'd like to entertain that motion, if there is a motion for that. And
Yes, I think out of respect for the residents of the 3rd Ward and the 6th Ward, I would like their representatives present in any discussions as to the funding for the CDBG, or the CDBG funding. So I'd move to continue this to the next.
Is there a
council.
jeopardy of anything? Can we move this? What say you, staff?
The action plan is basically our application to the federal government. So they've allocated the dollars, and we have a time frame during which to input the plan into their IDIS system and then submit it to them, which will take them a period of time to complete. When they do that, last year it took over probably 90 days for them to get us the contracts for us to get that money. So June 14th, we must have this to HUD.
Okay, so
That's our time frame.
That's the time frame.
I should say the drop dead date.
So perhaps we could just move this item to a workshop, budget workshop. Would that be compatible with I know we have a budget workshop, I get it. Can we add the item to the budget workshop?
Yes, we could. I guess I'm trying to understand what you want to accomplish.
Well, Councilman has just suggested that he wanted some more representation here. The chairman of the CDBG committee is not here. Councilmember Richard, she's not here, and the councilman-elect. So we're asking for a continuance. That's the motion. The question is, can we add it to? Hold on. Thank you. Can we move that to May 29th?
I'm going to ask staff if that, because it's a public hearing, if we can continue it. But the CDBG ad hoc committee did reconvene and hear this matter again. Did we need to go back to the committee, or?
No. I think because the council has to vote on it as a whole, right? So we're going to deliberate. I think having the chairman for the CDBG ad hoc committee would be a real added value to the discussion deliberations we're going to have as a whole to vote on this.
So that's the motion, and is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? No second. All right, the matters before the council tonight. Let's call for the question here. If there's no comments, very good. Very good. All right, members cast their votes, please, on these items. Thank you, staff.
On item 24, the motion was made by Mr. Charette, the second by Mr. Mulvihill, and the item passes 5-0.
Thank you. Tonight, we adjourn our meeting in memory of Joseph Chastain. At this time, I will recognize Councilman Nickel.
Yes, just to reiterate, I know we had a number of public comments this evening, but we do adjourn this evening in memory of Joey Chastain. Joey was a 39-year resident of our city who was tragically hit and killed by a vehicle on April 24th. Our thoughts and prayers are with Joey's family and friends during this difficult time, and I just appreciate the council's willingness to adjourn in his memory. Thank you.
Very good. Yes, Councilman Charette.
Yeah, I have to ask this question. I've been told to by the public very clearly, but I asked it already, and I wanted to clarify. I don't know where we stand on the animal shelter at this point in time, how we get it back on the agenda, what exactly we need to do. It was my position that, and I did request through the mayor's office a special meeting to revisit that. I did go through the city clerk's office and asked her to poll council members to see if we could get 4 council members to put it back on the agenda or have a special meeting to deal with it. There was no takers on that, or I guess there were 2 or 3. There weren't enough. It takes 4 council members. And I don't think we can just leave this thing go. It's been rejected by Riverside. My position was that we didn't fulfill our obligation to the public. It was quoted in the paper as well. I regretted my vote that we had cut them off by about 3 months to go for the RFQ and to get the public to come through with some proposals. And I would still like to entertain giving the nonprofits and the people that are interested in coming forward with proposals. I would like to do that. So I'm just saying that publicly, and I don't know how we go about dealing with it or getting it back on the agenda for discussion or for some sort of action.
Thank you, Councilman. I will turn to our city attorney to provide some clarity or guidance. We are almost in adjournment mode, but the city attorney.
Okay, I can just give you some procedural advice. Anything can be placed on the agenda at any time with concurrence of majority of the city council. So I think that's the first thing that you've alluded to, council member, is that you attempted to see if you could get a majority of the council to place this item on the
First, I
special.
attempted to get the mayor to do it.
Okay, so one option was you attempted the mayor. You then sought out support of a majority of the city council, which my understanding is you did not get to place that item back
Either
on the
the
agenda.
mayor's office or my colleagues.
Right. And so I'd say with that, the item wouldn't come back on the agenda. It would require that. In a normal situation, things are placed on the agenda by the city manager. In this case, the item was placed on the agenda. It was discussed and action was taken by the city council. Once the city manager fulfills that duty, it then becomes the responsibility of the city council to decide how they're going to deal with that item. And so you can bring back an item through a motion for reconsideration only if you were one of the people who voted in the majority, with the majority in whatever decision was made. But that has to be done at the meeting immediately following when the action was taken. And so I think from a timing standpoint, that is passed. And then if a majority of your colleagues simply don't want to bring it back, then I don't see an avenue at this point of you bringing that item back before the city council.
Okay, I get that. I guess my point is, and it just needs to be stated, that that is the 300-pound, 500-pound, 1,000-pound gorilla in the room or elephant in the room, and it's just hanging out there unfinished, as I understand it, in that Riverside rejected it. So that's all. That's my point. I'm asking a question. I'm not making a statement.
Mr. Charette,
I don't know.
Just to dialogue with you a little bit here, the County Board of Supervisors has technically not rejected it. They did not vote on it. And so maybe the city attorney can provide some verbiage or some
Right.
assessment
So I'd
on
also
that.
just like to add that under the Brown Act, we can answer questions, but if we get into a debate or we discuss this, then we're violating the Brown Act because it's not agendized tonight. So we can answer a few questions, we can tell you what I just told you, but to have a full-blown discussion on an item when it's 10:30 and the public's not here and not noticed, we'd be potentially in violation of the Brown Act.
Okay, Councilman Nickel.
Would it be possible to agendize an update on the status of the agreement that was submitted to Riverside County as a general discussion item to discuss where we're at in this process now so we can determine what, if any, options might be available to us or that we should consider given the current circumstances?
Actually, I provided an update to you last week in your update. They did not take any action. We expect them to take action again in the next couple weeks. We've been talking to the supervisors. They had some unanswered questions that they wanted more information on. So we've been meeting with them and discussing it. I've been discussing it with their CEO, and it will be brought back to their board at a future date in the next week or two. So it basically, no action was taken.
Okay, so does that violate the Brown Act, what we just received, that update?
No, because you asked a question, you got an answer, and you're not debating amongst yourself what you want to do and how you want to do it.
Okay, so basically the status is, it is still under consideration technically by the Board of Supervisors in Riverside. Okay, thank you.
Very good. This meeting will be adjourned in the memory of Joey Chastain, as mentioned by Councilman Nichol. Good evening and drive home safely. Thank you.